Hello. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Looks like we're live. Live, nice here, and beautiful Skyhold. Welcome back to Dragon Age Inquisition. I have done some preparation and stuff off stream. I've got Skyhold up and running. I have the beautiful vistas. I have a couple of mods to get outfits that aren't terrible, armor that isn't terrible, all that kind of wonderful stuff. And everything should be up and running and wonderful, and I can't wait to get started with everybody. Anyway, as the thumbnail in the description have promised, tonight is mostly going to be side quests. We're not going to be really getting involved in any of the main story quests, at least not yet. There are plenty of them, don't you worry, but some of them are sort of trapped behind. How would you put it? They're trapped behind progress points. Right? I got to do a bunch of side quests before doing main quest stuff. Anyway, so I figure we may as well pretty much at least briefly explore this week and maybe next week as many of these side little areas as we can. Talk to everybody in Skyhold, see what this place is about, do any kind of side quests and stuff here. I think I did all of the crafting and stuff that I really need to, at least for now. So we'll just wander about, see what there is to do, see who there is to talk to. I just remembered, unfortunately, while I was exploring and doing some housekeeping stuff, I happened across it's books, isn't it? Books is its own separate thing, isn't it? No, it's not. It's tales. Songs. Anyway, I ran across something. Hi, Kevin. Welcome. Something that I don't want to miss out on. No. Oh, this is it. Chapter 6 of Hard in Hightown. But I don't know if I got all the way to Chapter 6. I got Chapter 1. I got Chapter 2. Good thing we didn't read it then. We're out of order. That's the danger. We have begun encountering the chapters of Hard in Hightown out of order. Uh-oh. I mean, I guess that's fair. Erica says, the faster the stream is over, the faster I can go to sleep, and it can be Friday, and I can count down the hours until D&D. No offense. No offense taken, I understand. Anyway, yeah, I'm not going to be reading Hard in Hightown Chapter 6 before I read Hard in Hightown Chapters 3 through 5. What I do want to do is sit in judgment and judge a prisoner. So this should be fun. This is always interesting, and I'm looking forward to taking a much more philosophical view towards this than I often do.
Fit for a leader, meant to show influence and the burden of it. It is where the Inquisition will sit in judgment, where you will sit in judgment.
Who will I be judging exactly?
Those who have done wrong. You will know of them, at the very least. All this presumes they have survived their initial encounter with you, of course.
Do I really need to oversee even more death? I'm nearly at capacity.
I share your distaste for more bloodshed, but it needn't come to that. The Inquisition's sovereignty is derived from the allies who validate it. You are both empowered and bound. Justice has many tools. If their application is clever, execution may even seem merciful by comparison.
See, I love that. This is what is meant when historians, rarely, but when historians talk about feudalism, this is what is meant. This is the kind of institutional structure that we're talking about. Now, a lot of historians shy away from the term feudalism or feudal social structure or feudal political arrangements or anything like that. particularly because it is vague, right? There isn't um, it isn't an ideology. It's not something like democracy or liberal democracy. It's not something like communism or fascism. There's no core documents for feudalism. Um, it's not even like Roman law. It's not institutionalized. It's not codified, written down, and anything like that. Insofar as it exists, insofar as it can be said to exist, feudalism is just a description of how things were done in a particular area, a very broad area, in a particular time, a very broad time. But we can pick out patterns, and those are patterns that that a lot of historians, particularly more analytic, maybe we would say ideological historians, praised. Uh, Particularly, what comes to mind is Hans Hermann Hoppe, has greatly praised feudalism, or what you might call feudalism, right? The non-absolutist monarchy, which is basically just what we just heard described here. It's that we have sovereignty. We have this legendary trait, characteristic of sovereignty. We have absolute control over that which is under our control. However, we only have it insofar as we use it properly, because it's built on authority, not just power. This is actually another thing that I wrote a piece a little while ago. I'm gonna see if I can. I'm gonna see if I can. I'm gonna look into whether I can do this like legally. I think I can. Publish this under my own name elsewhere. It's published in a chapter in Encyclopedia recently, on the difference between power and authority. Wait a minute. No. No, I'm thinking of something different. No, this one was in this was in a journal, which should be publicly accessible. I'll find it. If I can find it somewhere, I'll put it in the description. If I can't find it somewhere publicly accessible, I'll see if I can republish it on my blog. I'll put it in there as well. But I draw this distinction, which is drawn from particularly the early medieval period, between power and authority. This is drawn primarily from the Galatian two swords doctrine. That was Pope Gelasius the second or first, one of the Galasiuses. We talked about the sword of the church and the sword of temporal authority being very different and operating very differently. And this developed over time into a kind of competitive and cooperative arrangement of political powers. Kevin says, I always reckon feudalism was a contract between peasants and nobles, protection for food, basically. No, that's just governance. That's any kind of government you can describe in that way. What characterizes feudalism in particular is the layers of power that check one another. It's something like a far less formalized and more negotiation based version of American federalism. Something like that, where you have these layers of authority. You have a local, anything even down to just a yeoman farmer, someone who owns land. They have power over that land. If anyone comes onto their land, they have power over that land. That goes up further to all the way up the sort of ladder of power, through local lords, through regional counts and lords and whatever else you want to call it, through something like the Inquisition, which is something historically equivalent to a knightly order, to kings. But even kings were far from absolute, because they competed for authority with every layer of power and every layer of authority, all the way down to the peasant. And you had to know what you could justly institute, or justly enforce, or justly, practically speaking, justly get away with. Because sovereignty, and we think of Locke when we hear just sovereignty is derived from the consent of the governed. Yeah, but he was just looking at the medieval period and reading what he saw. sovereignty is in fact, not ideally, it is in fact derived from a careful relationship of, we might say, consent, but that can be pushed because it's not always necessarily the case. It's certainly, though, it's certain that sovereignty is derived from a negotiation between the various governed and governing parties. No ruler was absolute, and no ruled was absolutely ruled. Was absolutely free or was absolutely unfree. It was entirely a negotiation between levels of authority. And what we have done in the modern period is we've stripped that middle ground away, and we have the sovereign and the individual. This goes to primarily to Hobbes with the Leviathan. The idea is that there is a mass of individuals with a sovereign above them, which has absolute power. Now, whatever form that sovereign takes, it doesn't matter. Hobbes can consider the sovereign to be a democracy. Fine, it's just the democratic institution is the absolute sovereign, and it is connected and to each individual citizen in precisely the same way. That is, sovereignly. It has absolute control over the entirety of society. We think of governance in this way. What we don't think of, typically, outside of, I'm just going to go ahead and be patriotic for a moment, outside of Florida, we don't think of levels of government wrestling with each other for power and for authority. But that serves as a fantastic check on tyranny at any level. And this is why Hoppe in particular, Hans Hermann Hoppe, wrote a fantastic short book. Something about the degradation of society. It's the title is From Aristocracy to Monarchy to Democracy. Something about the decline of Western society through the Middle Ages and Renaissance. Something along those lines. It's a really chonky, unwieldy title, unfortunately, but it's wonderful. And it describes how this happens, how the sort of mediating institutions, even the mediating governmental institutions, get hollowed out, and we wind up with the sovereign and the individuals. More so even in a constitutional republic than in an absolute monarchy, and then more so in an absolute monarchy than in a, or actually more so in a constitutional monarchy than in an absolute monarchy, more so in an absolute monarchy than in a feudal monarchy. Given said, I don't think any power is absolute. Even claimants of absolute power are gambling on the acquiescence of their court. Not in the modern context. Technology can make power exercisable in non-consensual ways. Now, that can be military technology, that can be surveillance technology, that can be technology of any level. That can be, in this context, magical technology. You can have the magisterium of Tevinter, to use the Dragon Age example. The magisterium of Tevinter is absolutely sovereign because they have access, and direct access, and plentiful access to slaves, slavery, and blood magic. Because blood magic is, first of all, enormously powerful on the battlefield, but then more importantly, can directly control individual people. You can puppeteer people. You can control people's minds for at least a short period of time. And so the Magisterium of Tevinter, with the aid of this technology, namely magic, primarily magic, but also things like slavery and institutional structures and other things like that, has something like absolute political power. Whereas the Inquisition clearly does not. They have some degree of authority, and that authority is discovered. It is found by negotiating with other powerful forces to see where the lines are, where the edges of that authority are. See what level of authority is just and is acceptable. And again, I want to distinguish power and authority as well. This is that piece I was talking about, which was from a journal last year or so. Like I said, I'll see if I can find where it's if it's published online, if I can put it there somewhere and just a link to it. Otherwise, I'll happily republish it on the blog, put it there. But distinguishing between power and authority, power is the ability to do things. Authority is the ability to do things right, to do just things. So you can have power without authority, and that's how most governments work, and most governments have worked throughout human history. If they had power, they could get stuff done. They could enforce their will. But they often lacked authority, and in many cases, they abdicate authority by misusing and misexercising power. Basically, by getting things done that are unjust, they show themselves to be non-authoritative. Think about the difference between the power and the authority of the Supreme Court is a good example. They have the power to bind laws on the country. They have very clearly shown over the last week or so, maybe a couple weeks, that they lack a great deal of authority. That is, they lack the ability to properly discern truth from falsity with respect to the law. And this is the example that I've talked about before of when they said some really unbelievably ignorant things about the coronavirus, about vaccination, about incidents of medical treatment, about constitutionality, even, funny enough. And also Sonia Sotomayor doing the whole, since the beginning of time, philosophers have... Shut up! Anyway. So the thing is that we have a level of understanding of the mechanisms of control sufficient to develop counters to the technocrats. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about, though. Right? That is layers of power wrestling with one another. We have a lot of people have disparagingly called what we experience now a kind of techno-feudalism. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's true. We have individuals wrestling with group admins, wrestling with the platforms and their owners themselves, wrestling with other authorities within that structure, influencers, whatever, or even just friends, groups, whatever, all that sort of thing. And then all of those wrestling not only with each other, but also with the state above it. And it's not just like the state above it has absolute control over the tech platform. The tech platform has absolute control over the group admins. And the group admins have absolute control over the individuals and all the layers in between those things. We all know that's not how it works. Obviously. So, there's more to it than that. There is, in fact, a kind of feudalistic structure. Whiskey will be here around 10. Cool. I want to talk about Cobra Kai at some point, but I'll wait for him because Whiskey mentioned it Monday, and I was like, you know what? I haven't seen it. I saw it was on Netflix now. I really want to. And then I did. I watched the first season since Monday. It's awesome. I'll talk about it then, because like I said, Whiskey's the one who brought it up, so I don't want him to miss out on the subject. All right, so anyway, speaking of sovereignty, let's sit in judgment.
Is there anyone I should judge?
Take the throne when you're ready. We will bring him before you.
I have a needs whiz kid here. You hear that? I mean, you won't, but I don't know. Maybe you'll go back and watch this part.
You recall Gerion Alexius of Tevinter. Ferelden has given him to us as an acknowledgement of your aid.
Ooh.
The formal charges are apostasy, attempted enslavement, and attempted assassination on your own life, no less. Tevinter has disowned and stripped him of his rank. You may judge the former magister as you see fit.
Recall that apostasy in this context is not a religious offense. It is the offense of practicing magic outside of and without the approval of a circle. Which is kind of... look, Sable's a good chantry girl. She supports that sort of charge. So, anyway, keep that in mind.
I remember what would have have happened to Thedas if his treachery had succeeded?
I couldn't save my son. Do you think my fate matters to me?
My son!
Will you offer
Damn it, I'm
nothing
sorry.
more
I'll have to
in your
explain that joke.
defense?
You've won nothing. The people you saved, the acclaim you've gathered. You'll lose it all in the storm to come. Render your judgment, Inquisitor.
So the my son thing, I find that particularly funny for some idiot reason because I'm just reminded of Shadowversity and their Shadowversity second channel game nights, or sorry, Night's Watch it's called now, where they do media reviews and play games and stuff like that. They did a full episode by episode review of Wheel of Time. They were deeply disappointed, as was I. Them more so because Shad was a big fan of the books. I haven't read them yet. I'd like to. But there's a scene in like episode 3 or so, I forget. Early on in the season, 2 or 3, when one of the Moraine, one of the supposed good guys, kind of the main protagonist of the show for some reason, basically kills a guy. Not directly, but basically kills a guy who is very, very foolishly going to try and go save his son, who's not quite in immediate danger, but probably will be, from an army of Trollocs monsters. And she's just like, oh no, and he dies. And he's shouting about my son the whole time. And they're pointing out, Shadowversity and crew, the reviewers, they're pointing out that this was, like, horrifying of her to do to this guy. Like, she easily could have saved him, and pointed out that so his son was coming back to his house, which was overrun by the monster army, and he was like, no, I have to go warn him, and go across the river again, which they couldn't cross with the ferry, which would then let them cross and kill everyone. But of course he didn't realize the obvious that anyone could have pointed out, that if his son was on his way back to the house, he would have absolutely seen this army of monsters before they saw him, and then just not gone there. Just saying. Anyway, it was done. It was funny. Kevin asks, unrelated to power dynamics, as a thinking person, if one were to be infatuated, but also kind of scared, what's the best way to avoid foolishly diving headlong into a relationship? Been a while. It might matter what you're scared of, why you're scared. Because if it is merely fear of moving too fast, or of getting ahead of yourself, or of making a rash decision making, at least in the initial steps of attraction and courting and such, is not necessarily a bad thing. Now, if you barring sin, let's just leave it there. But as far as infatuation or attraction or courting, that sort of thing goes, I see no reason not to risk it, not to go for it, or at least to see if your initial attraction has any merit to it. If there's anything really potentially there. And this is from some experience, albeit old experience, when I was much younger than either of us. That I was a hormonal late teenager when I'm talking about a lot of this, but it is far easier to act on an initial attraction and make advances, court, whatever, and then be rejected at that stage, or find out that it's not going to work out at that stage, than it is to ponderously wait and run the risk of obsessing over time. You can have that infatuation, which again, it's important to remember that this infatuation is not with the actual person. It's not a real interpersonal interaction. It's with an idealized version that you've constructed in your mind from your impressions of them. It's not a real interaction yet. The sooner you can get to the real interpersonal interaction part, the better, because you're not going to either just completely fall head over heels in love with this imaginary version of the person and then be completely crushed when they either reject you or don't live up to your expectations. I know, first of all, I'll add, I completely understand this is far easier said than done. but I think my advice would have to be upfront and honest in any kind of potential courting or communication, that sort of thing. And then just go for it. Because the worst that can happen is you find out that okay, not true. In our current climate, the worst that can happen is you get Me Too'd for no reason, but falsely, obviously. But that's the worst that could happen. Barring that, the worst that could happen is it turns out not to work. It doesn't work out, right? And that sucks. Don't get me wrong, that sucks. But that's also learning something. That's learning that it wasn't going to work out anyway, and that you're better off not pursuing it further, and you can get through that quicker. You know, Erica has a lot to say. I'll go ahead and read it though. If you're a guy, just continue to be yourself and normal, but more gentlemanly. Like, be more involved in asking how your partner is doing, making more plans with them, making interesting dates, etc. We have different assumptions here. I'm assuming that you're not involved yet, that you are gazing upon someone from afar. If you are already involved somewhat, then yeah, it seems like good advice to me. Here's my other piece of advice. Take advice from women on how women want to be treated. Romantically speaking, like that's good advice. Just basically spend more time, Erica continues, being with them and improving yourself, but also watch really closely about how the other person acts. They're trying to improve themselves and are putting time aside for you. Also, at the same rate, I think that things are going pretty well. But also look for red flags, like over clinginess, including yourself, how they treat other people, do they have their lives together, etc. If they have a serious problem and it will be a deal breaker and they refuse to change themselves, then just break up. Your advice. That said, Eric and I were both relatively clingy. But I don't know. It's who both of us are, so it's okay. It's not too bad. Kevin says, I'm actually in a position to have a chance with a literal dream girl right now. Hey, don't say literal, because... Okay, well... I'll explain why I don't want you saying literal, but we'll move on. However, he continues, I have been alone so long that I'm terrified of the changes and difficulty that might occur. Change is extremely difficult for me. I understand that completely. But good change is good. That is important to remember. It's hard to remember, but it's good to remember. Now, when you say literal dream girl, why I say to be very, very careful with that. It's twofold. First of all, no one's perfect, and expecting someone to be perfect is setting yourself up for horrible disappointment that you don't want. Then, the other part of it, which is very dangerous, and I did this in high school, I think, I would probably say, is that if you're talking about a literal dream girl, what you're doing is you are, like I was saying, you're setting up a facade of someone where the other person is just somewhat causally related to that facade, rather than actually interacting with the person. By idealizing the person, you're not idealizing the person, you're idealizing your image of the person, and the person is just over there, somewhat causally related. And that can be its own set of problems. Erica said, be in a relationship for the purpose of finding marriage material. Absolutely. If you're just dating them, then what's the point? I agree completely. So you're really looking for compatibility because you sure ain't fornicating. And also, change is always scary, but you need to embrace it. Yeah, I need to follow that advice. I hate change. Despise any kind of change. But hey, you gotta... To stop changing is to die. Nedrick said, dealing with the ideal of someone in dating versus the reality was really difficult for me. That type of projection complicates many things. Lost at least one good guy with my fumbling. Yeah, see, it can, like you said, it can turn a potentially good situation into a bad situation by assuming that it is better than it is, right? By assuming that it's perfect, you're losing the good. And this is one of those rare circumstances where I would say that the perfect can be the enemy of the good. Ordinarily, that's not the case. Strive for perfection, but don't assume perfection. That's the difference. Erica said, there's literally no such thing as a dream girl. Every single person has had habits or things in their closet that either you'll know nothing about or haven't noticed bothers the living heck out of you yet. Yeah, it's true. And like I said, yeah, there are dream girls. They are literally in your dreams, which is a different person than the actual person. That's an issue. That's an issue. And again, I think it's that projection problem. Now we're talking over Kevin like crazy, but so hopefully this is some of this at least is pretty good advice. I've been single in a very long time, so I can only give so much advice here. All right, so based on what we know, what? We're missing a fourth option, and I think I know why. First of all, we don't have the Arcane Knowledge perk, which you get automatically as a mage, but you can get through Inquisition points. You can learn Arcane Knowledge. You can learn about magic, basically, and about mages. If you have that perk, there's a fourth option, which is Tranquility. You can make him tranquil, which is by far the worst punishment, and probably cruel and horrifying, especially as a punishment, because we spent the entire last game, if you'll recall, fighting against Tranquility being used as a punishment. Anyway, it's not here as an option. I didn't realize that it wouldn't be. That's cool. All right, so service to Redcliffe mages, that's actually a very good idea. Even from an abstract point of view, right? Abstract and ethical point of view. Prison or execution only serve the purpose of preventing him from causing further harm to society. He is still a threat, but careful oversight by the Redcliffe mages is just as useful as prison. So prison, I kind of would rule out. It is a waffly middle ground that is neither useful nor perfectly secure. So that leaves us either execution or service. And this really comes down to, can he be prevented from causing further harm to society by putting him to serve? I think the case is yes. As I said, he's a powerful mage with, presumably, access to blood magic. However, blood magic does not affect Tranquil, and there are a great number of Tranquil among Redcliffe's mages. And he's surrounded by other powerful mages. This seems like this would be the best option. The softest option, to be fair. But it's probably the best and most practical option. Also, it's very fitting. He was basically trying to enslave the mages from Redcliffe. And him being put into service for them is very fitting, I think. Kevin says, well, the thing is... to be fair, execution by Sable's hand is also fairly fitting, because he tried directly to kill her. So there's that. But if we executed every unarmed prisoner who tried to kill us first... excuse me. These judgments would get boring. Kevin says, well, the thing is, I've known her long enough to know that she isn't perfect. But I still feel like she's perfect. Okay. I can see the problem there. Of course, I'm using perfect nebulously, but all things considered, I'm excited. Gotcha. Okay, I see what I see the issue. Okay, I know what you mean. Erica said, then I guess the last thing to say is grow some balls, dude. Just ask her out and be a good man. Spicy Queen strikes again. How can he grow balls if you keep busting him like that? I agree, though. Go for it. I would say go for it, and I would say go for it before it's too late for one reason or another. Either she finds somebody else, or she finds something else, or she becomes a nun. Who knows? Or you overdevelop this weird ideal. You overdevelop a weird idealization of her. You don't want to do that either. All of these are problems that are exacerbated by delaying. So yeah, go for it. Is probably the best bit of advice we can give. I think probably all of us can give. Don't necessarily want to speak for Datrick here, but close enough. Right.
You swore to the mages you'd help them. I will have you uphold that promise.
Oh, Sarah's mad. Don't care.
Fiona will take charge of you. Any knowledge, favor, or coin you own will go towards the mage's future.
A headsman would have been kinder.
That's true. Hey, at least you're not tranquil. Why does he still have knives? That doesn't seem right. He still has knives. Wait, is there more? No, there's not. There's no more. Still giving me the quest, though. That's weird. Alright. Empuis du Lion. No. Let's go find coal. No, nothing there. That's not anything good. Oh, true. There's no need for you to apologize for busting Kevin's balls. It's perfectly understandable. Given the circumstances. What's a fight? Jeez. Our foreman wants to actually go and fight alongside the Inquisition. That ass. Alright, let's see what else we can find around Skyhold on our way to go and do this quest. Upstairs. Kevin says, I'm actually more fearful of my own overthinking. I tend to crush my own dreams by overthinking. Oh, yeah, then absolutely. Act. Act before... I am so loath to say this, but act before thinking. In a circumstance like this. Surface. Issues with plaster. Okay. No, she's not out here. What's her face? I can't remember her name. It's gonna bug me. Vivienne, that's it. Vivienne's usually around here, but she's not, which is strange. But okay. Fine. Guess not. And trust your good intentions, no worries. Good, good. Detrick says, worst case is it doesn't work out, and it's a learning experience, Kevin. We can't control everything, but we can control how we react and learn from conflict. Absolutely. Very stoic. And I think that, you know what? Kevin, have you actually seen my video on stoicism? Because strangely, there is what I think is some fairly good dating advice in that video. It's not very long, but and it's obviously it's not the whole thing, but I do think that there is some good dating advice in that video. So recommend. I'll put it in the description afterwards.
Greetings to you, Inquisitor. I am to serve as assistant to any research concerns. You'll find my skills are exceptional. I hope they prove useful.
You're taking over the duties of Maeve?
Yes. She said she was needed elsewhere and that I should serve the Inquisition to the best of my ability.
What is she doing?
I wasn't told.
Yeah, Kevin. Learning experiences hurt like F. That is true. But they help in the long term. Bitter medicine, right?
How can you serve the Inquisition?
I am to aid in the research of all creatures encountered in your efforts as leader of the Inquisition.
What makes you particularly qualified?
I remember being fond of animals. I don't remember why.
Tranquility's easy.
You were made tranquil.
Yes, I am tranquil. It was necessary due to a willful nature that made wielding magic a dangerous endeavor. I remember that being a difficult time, but I cannot remember why. My skills are well used in my current position.
You don't like
What
it.
is your evaluation of how we're doing?
Adequate, based on a partial improvements to Skyhold.
As you were.
Yes, Inquisitor.
Okay, good. A book. Jump. Read. Why can't I read? No? Alright, whatever. There's Fiona. A book. The Veil. Not literally a curtain. Got it. Yep, it's a different realm, technically.
Greetings, Inquisitor.
Different mode of being.
That is your title now, yes? I should thank you. The way things ended in Redcliffe, you could have demanded anything you wished. Yet you chose to make us equal partners. I was not expecting that.
Erica says, the more I live, the more I see all these problems as dumb and unimportant. Also, Vince converted me. Yes, it's true. But sometimes I wish I'd just become a nun instead of marrying him. I did not, I suppose, thankfully, I guess, did not fall to that particular curse. That's always the danger of flirt to convert, is well, what if they're called to the religious life? I mean, that's a good thing, but it's not. To relate it to what Kevin said, it doesn't feel great in the moment, I'm sure. Anyway. There's always after I die. And with my absurd habits of life, a lot of which I've moved past, but who knows? There's a fair chance that you'll outlive me, so there's time. Thank you, Kevin, for declaring me a jackpot. Me? Kevin thinks so. Hey, don't get me wrong, I'm annoying sometimes. Remember you weren't here Monday, were you, when I was talking about why I wear glasses? I'll leave that to be a mystery. Not much of a mystery. I talked about it on the stream Monday, so you can go back and watch if you want.
Having you here willingly can only make us stronger. Fair enough. I've been a Grey Warden, Grand Enchanter, leader of a rebellion, and now I am none of those things. Odd where fate takes you, as you're no doubt well aware. You were once a Grey Warden. Mine is an unusual circumstance, Inquisitor. Normally one is part of the Order until death. But long ago I found myself stripped of what made me a warden.
Which is really weird,
They
but okay.
tried to reinitiate me, but nothing worked. Nor could they figure out how it happened. So I was sent to the Circle of Magi, the first warden ever to be kicked out. Quite the achievement. You sound happy about it. Becoming a warden seemed like a dream when I was first conscripted. Towards the end, however, my brothers and sisters, they felt I had somehow cheated death. I was glad to leave. It also made me unique in the Circle. I had an opportunity to do more than I ever could as a warden. You mean you began the Mage Rebellion? I pushed for our vote to free the Circles of Magi. But I cannot claim sole responsibility for what followed. Still, despite all the chaos, I would do it again. What happened had to happen.
Okay, that's some nice extremist talk. Got to appreciate it to a degree. Kevin said, "Oh no, there's only one folk reason for wearing glasses I'm aware of. Is it being a nerd? Because I am. I'm sitting here on Thursday night in a sweater, playing Dragon Age, talking about philosophy. So yeah, there's that. But that's not all. That's not all. You'll find out someday. Don't worry. You can keep guessing if you want. But anyway,
I've been meaning to ask, how exactly did the Venatori take control in Redcliffe? Mages constantly found their way to us while we were there. Stragglers, most of them strangers. I had no way of knowing some were actually Tevinter. They spread whispers, encouraged talk of an alliance, and we were desperate. I'm not proud of our choice, but we were certain Templars were coming. It could have ended far worse.
It's true. She's got a point. It is very good that the Inquisition showed up, but I can see the desperation.
I trust everything is well with the mages.
We're mostly relieved. An alliance with the Inquisition offers security, although who knows for how long.
I'll leave you to it.
Before you go, Inquisitor, a question. In Redcliffe, after we left, did you perhaps speak with King Alistair? Considering who you are?
He wasn't in the mood to talk.
It's just that I knew his father, Marek, back when I was a warden.
Knew his father. If I'm remembering my lore correctly, that's Alistair's mother.
You want me to smooth things over with him? Introduce you?
No, it's too late for that. I only wanted to know if he was happy. His father had such hopes for him. Don't mind me, Inquisitor. The concerns of an old woman. Nothing more.
Kevin asked, wait a minute, who's the more nerdy, the glasses-wearing philosophy nerd or the glasses-wearing philosophy nerd who follows him? I still think that the teacher tends to be nerdier than the student in these cases, or the leader more nerdier than the follower. You have to be the nerdier to lead others into it, I think. Why are there so many books that are showing up on my blip scan, but not actually readable? Yeah, whatever. Let's talk to Dorian. Mr. Mustache.
Brilliant, isn't it? One moment you're trying to restore order in a world gone mad. That should be enough for anyone to handle, yes? Then, out of nowhere, an archdemon appears and kicks you in the head. What? You thought this would be easy? No, I was just hoping you wouldn't crush our village like an anthill. Sorry about that. Archdemons like to crush, you know. Can't be helped. Am I speaking too quickly for you?
Sable would flirt. I know that Sable would flirt because we encountered a character that was very, very heavily based off of Dorian in our D&D game. And Sable, the character from our D&D game, reacted roughly thusly.
I was distracted. That's all.
Distracted? By my wit and charm? I have plenty of both.
How interesting to find someone so aware of his strengths.
I love that.
I'm a man of many talents. What can I say? I always assumed the Elder One behind the Venatori was a Magister. But this is something else completely. In Tevinter, they say the Chantry's tales of Magisters starting the Blight are just that. Tales. But here we are. One of those very Magisters. A dark spawn.
Okay, Obi-Wan. I think he was... Okay, so I would say that Obi-Wan in that circumstance, who's the greater fool, the fool or the fool who follows him, would have to be being self-deprecating, but I think in that case, I don't think so. Eric's gonna make sandwiches. Someone watch the chat. Okay, I'll try. I think Obi-Wan's point there is that the fool does not know that he's doing something foolish, but the one who follows the fool knows that he's doing something foolish and does it anyway. I think that is why Han in that circumstance, right? Han was the one who went along with it, right? Yeah. Anyway, that's why in that circumstance I think he was deprecating Han more than himself, because he's saying it's not like Obi-Wan thought his actions were foolish. It's that he's acknowledging that Han thought his actions were foolish, but we're following them anyway. That's the point. That's the point. Anyway, so yeah, Teventer does not actually think that our big bad guy, Corypheus, is that particular kind of big bad guy. Kevin, I think you're a little too far away for a sandwich, unfortunately. Sadly.
Who does the Imperium say started the Blight?
You know how it is. Not us. They say Darkspawn were always there. Magisters and the Blight aren't even related. Is that a surprise? No one wants to admit they shit the bed. But if Corypheus is one of the Magisters who entered the Black City and he's Darkspawn, what other explanation is there?
Why does that make you angry?
Because the Imperium is my home. I knew what I was taught couldn't be the whole truth, but I assumed there had to be a kernel of it, somewhere. But no, it was us all along. We destroyed the world.
Last I checked, the Blights hadn't actually destroyed the world.
Not for lack of trying. If they were more clever, they'd have unleashed something that would really do the job. No one will thank me, whatever happens. No one will thank you either. You know that, yes?
I really like... Oh, God. I like most of the characters in this game, Dorian included, and his... I'd say his bleak outlook is at least somewhat bleak outlook. That he's very wry and dry and sarcastic in a dark sort of way. And every once in a while, the darkness, you can sort of see it through his lighthearted attitude. I really like how that's done. And I forgot that it pops up so early. I thought that only really came on later. Like personal quest kind of stuff. Kevin said, I think Obi-Wan was being witty and Han being the oaf he was happened to be an easy mark. Okay, true enough. Han's witty too, though. He's witty too. It's like one of his major character traits. Luke is the one of the party, of the core group, who's not that witty. I think even Chewbacca is pretty witty. It's just we don't understand him and we don't have subtitles. So, I mean, how many times does Han say, "You said it, Chewie"? I mean, he wouldn't have been doing that if it weren't that if he weren't saying something clever. Luke is the easy mark, I think, more than Han. Han's more likely to snap back really clever like.
That's not why I'm doing this.
I knew there was something clever about you. All I know is this. Corypheus needs to be stopped. Men like him ruined my homeland. I won't stand by and let him ruin the world.
Swagger.
Oh, and congratulations on that whole leading the Inquisition thing, by the way.
Thanks. Thanks? I'm gonna go with thanks. Alright, let's go up, then down. Read it. Liliana. Wait a minute. Okay, I have to read this. Kevin says, Luke reminds me of my little brother. I love Luke. He is, setting aside the sequels, he is getting closer to being my favorite Star Wars character as time goes on and I get older. As a kid, it was always Han. Now it's close between Luke and Obi-Wan, and there's a case to be made for Qui-Gon. There's a really good case to be made for Qui-Gon. All right. Dear Liliana, you'll be happy to learn that your friends are doing well. Schmooples II is still unhappy about his meal plan and tries to get into the pantry. I had to have a bolt installed, and now he whines constantly. The two little ones are still a handful, but good news, I've managed to discourage Bulette from relieving herself on the silk rug Justinia gave you. Felicienne, from 2 doors over, has been visiting almost every day to play with the nugs. She's quite delightful, and Schmooples II is fond of her. I suspect it's because she brings him sweets from her father's shop. I had to ask her governess to keep her from visiting the house, however, as someone tried to infiltrate it 2 nights ago, an agent of one of the Blanchards, hoping to uncover some of the Nightingale's secrets. I neutralized and interrogated him. His ability to withstand questioning was deplorable. Someone needs to talk to the Blanchards about their spies. All I had to do was put Schmooples II in his face and tell him that I hadn't fed the creature that day. Your pet played his part admirably. I received your orders and will depart for Ferelden as soon as possible. I have arranged for Garter to take over nug keeping. Sparrow. Okay, so Liliana has a thing for cute animals, nugs in particular, which are basically, they're basically very large naked mole rats. They're super cute and I love them. There was a go to I think it's called nugelope.com. Check it out. It's funny. Great little side game. Anyway. So we're up here with all the spies. Settler, birds. Talking about the birds. Border between Ferelden and Orlais being closed. Understandable. Honestly, pretty understandable. A little shrine, very nice. And Liliana. Actually, if you recall, I think we may have... I mean, the Warden, I should say, may have started Liliana's obsession with nugs by giving her one as a gift back in Origins. Anyway, Erica's back. Made 2, and we'll be eating both of them.
I'm sorry.
Eating for 2, though, still, so it's fine.
Inquisitor, I was not expecting a visit. You had little interest in speaking to me privately before. But as dear Josephine says, it's never too late to make a friend.
Kevin said, it'd be the biggest winner ever if I got to date this girl, though. Well, good luck. I hope this goes well. I really do. Genuinely.
Right. Especially since we lost so many at Haven.
You noticed my exchange with the commander? The names of those we lost. You must blame me for this.
Oh my god. There's not 1, but 2 options here. To blame Liliana for everyone getting killed. What the frick? No! What? Why is this so mean? Oh my gosh, okay, no.
We all saw who attacked us. We know exactly who to blame.
I keep wondering if I could have done something different. When the first of my lookouts went missing, I pulled the rest back, awaiting more information. If they'd stayed in the field, they could have bought us more time. I was afraid to lose my agents. And instead, we lost Haven.
Oh, yeah, also 2 responses asking about Cullen. That is true. That's true, too. I will say that is one of the dialogue flounders, I guess you'd call it. Whatever. In Inquisition especially, is that a lot of the conversations will go in one direction, regardless of how exactly you answer. Oh, jeez. Okay, so Erica, you're going full bore on romancing Cullen, aren't you? Because asking why Cullen's here, and telling Liliana or Legion bitch to back off. Okay, well, okay then.
You look out for your people. That's a good thing.
Is it?
My people know their duty. They know the risks. They understand that the Inquisition may call upon them to give their lives.
Our people aren't tools to be used and discarded. Your instincts were right. Their lives matter.
Can we afford such sentimentality? What if Corypheus...
We're better than Corypheus.
All right. Yeah. Well, we better be better than Corypheus. Whee! Hey, Solus.
As I explored the Fade, I felt the presence of an intriguing artifact in the hinterlands. If you are willing, I would like to locate it. I have marked its location as best I could determine.
Okay. Cool.
I'd like to know more
Sure.
about you, Solus.
Why?
Why not?
Privacy? Caution? Concern about the direction of this Inquisition once our work is done?
Then don't tell me. I wasn't asking as part of the Inquisition.
I am sorry. With so much fear in the air. What would you know of me?
Eric, listen, you know what I mean? You know, I Sable likes. Yeah. True.
What made you start studying the Fade?
I grew up in a village to the north. There was little to interest a young man, especially one gifted with magic. But as I slept, spirits of the Fade showed me glimpses of wonders I had never imagined. I treasured my dreams. Being awake, out of the Fade, became troublesome.
Did spirits try to tempt you?
No more than a brightly colored fruit is deliberately tempting you to eat it. I learned how to defend myself from more aggressive spirits, and how to interact safely with the rest. I learned how to control my dreams with full consciousness. There was so much I wanted to explore.
I gather you didn't spend your entire life dreaming.
No. Eventually, I was unable to find new areas in the Fade.
Why?
2 reasons. First, the Fade reflects the world around it. Unless I traveled, I would never find anything new. Second, the Fade reflects and is limited by our imaginations. To find interesting areas, one must be interesting.
That's cool.
Is this
Weird,
why you
but-
joined the Inquisition?
I joined the Inquisition because we were all in terrible danger. If Corypheus destroyed the world, I would have nowhere to lay my head while dreaming of the Fade.
Well, it's not the worst reason I've heard to go out and enjoy life.
I'm glad to hear it. In truth, I have enjoyed experiencing more of life to find more of the Fade.
How so?
You train to flick a dagger or an arrow to its target. The grace with which you move is a pleasing side benefit. You have chosen a path whose steps you do not dislike because it leads to a destination you enjoy. As have I.
Huh. I like that, to a degree at least. I will say that's not always necessarily the truth, but in general, if we are pursuing something that's worth pursuing, the path towards it will be fulfilling, if not pleasurable. Certainly fulfilling. This kind of goes to Plato, even talking about our function, our ergon, our role within society, our fulfillment of what we would be best at, is what makes us the most satisfied, the most happy. It's what leads to a kind of eudaimonia, a kind of happiness, fulfillment, properly living our lives. So I think there's something to that. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily that you'll be, enjoying the steps along the way, because that's not necessarily the case, obviously. Sometimes something worth doing is done arduously, obviously. But even so, it's still the most fulfilling way forward.
You said you traveled to many different places.
This world, or its memory, is reflected in the Fade. Dream in ancient ruins, and you may see a city lost to history. Some of my fondest memories were found in crumbling cities, long picked dry by treasure seekers, the best of the battlefields. Spirits press so tightly on the veil that you can slip across with but a thought.
Any place in particular?
I dreamt at Ostagar. I witnessed the brutality of the Darkspawn and the valor of the Ferelden warriors. I saw Alistair and the hero Ferelden light the signal fire, and Logain's infamous betrayal of Kaelin's forces.
I've heard the stories. It would be interesting to hear what it was really like.
That's just it. In the Fade, I see reflections created by spirits who react to the emotions of the warriors. One moment, I see heroic wardens lighting the fire, and a power-mad villain sneering as he lets King Kaelin fall. The next, I see an army overwhelmed and a veteran commander refusing to let more soldiers die in a lost cause.
And you can't tell which is real?
It is the Fade. They are all real.
They're all real in the Fade, but not necessarily in reality. The real world. In this world, let's say. Interesting. It's a kind of emotivism. It's taking perception to be determinative of reality, rather than determined by reality. Anyways, kid, welcome. Cobra Kai never dies. I mean, yes, technically that's Globo Gym Purple Cobras, but they still do this thing, Cobra Kai. Anyway.
Have you always traveled and studied alone?
Not at all. I have built many lasting friendships. Spirits of wisdom, possessed of ancient knowledge, happy to share what they had seen. Spirits of purpose helped me search. Even wisps, curious and playful, would point out treasures I might have missed.
I don't know of any spirits by those names.
They rarely seek this world. When they do, their natures do not often survive exposure to the people they encounter. Wisdom and purpose are too easily twisted to pride and desire.
You're saying that you became friends with Pride and Desire demons?
They were not demons for me.
Meaning?
The Fade reflects the minds of the living. If you expect a spirit of wisdom to be a pride demon, it will adapt. And if your mind is free of corrupting influences, if you understand the nature of the spirit, they can be fast friends.
You trust these spirits not to possess you the first time you accidentally make a wish?
Do you trust your friends not to turn on you?
Well, yes, but they're people.
Ah, of course.
You know what I mean.
Are people only people because they are flesh and blood? Is Cassandra defined by her cheekbones and not her faith? Varric by his chest hair and not his wit?
Varric is kind of defined by his chest hair, to be fair, but WizKid hates how stupidly good it is. I'm talking about Cobra Kai. And also every time Daniel is unreasonable, the libertarian inside of me wants to violate the nap. Listen, I love that they turned Daniel into the like the pseudo villain. By the way, okay, so to clarify, you said, hey, watch Cobra Kai, it's really good, you really should watch it. Monday, I watched season 1 since then. So I've watched season 1. I've not watched 2 through 4 yet. I'm gonna. So watch season 1. And yeah, it's really good. I want to talk about why. There's a lot of things I love about it. I kind of want to talk about some of this too, but WizKid, girl talking about Kevin and his life and girls. I take it, hardly the expert in that area. Yeah, I would not consider WizKid an expert in relationships. That's true. That's true. WizKid says, yeah, whatever the opposite of expert is. Amateur? But that implies you do it, but don't get paid for it, which is probably a good thing. Anyway, not completely enough, just mostly. Oh, okay. Also, yeah, it's highly bingeable. Yeah, I didn't realize it was 3 a.m. What was it? Tuesday night or something? I don't know, at some point between then and now. I noticed it was 3 a.m. because I'd gotten through the first, 6 episodes or something. Anyway, 6 or 7, I don't know. It's very good. Very, very good. Kevin is stupid with girl thoughts, having a hard time thinking of anything else. Well, I want to finish this conversation because this is actually a really interesting conversation about the nature of spirits in Dragon Age. Because spirits are not in this world. They're not the spirits of the dead. They're not exactly angels. Eddie, don't forget to give Erica your spells, the spells you want for Emrys. So they're not exactly angels. They are manifestations of emotion, or maybe not manifestations of emotion. They're embodiments of. That's not right either. They're coalescences. Let's go with that of emotion, nature of emotion, that sort of thing. So there's something like powers and principalities. So they have something in common with real angels. Something like you can have something like the spirit of a town being the manifestation of what it is to be that town, and that can be a literal spirit in the Fade. And it can also be something that influences and impacts the people living there in the real world sense by being a kind of final cause for them, or a kind of formal cause for their actions, that sort of thing. Eddie is the intern of relationships. Okay then. He wants to make more mirror Emrys's. Listen, it's just the same image. His name's Orin. Eric said the only girl who should be on your mind is the Blessed Virgin Mary. Ah, ma'am. I mean, some of the time at least. Anyway, so. Oh, that's a good question, Wizkid. That is a very good question.
Spirits are bound by their nature. You said it yourself. They're shaped by contact with real people.
Just as Liliana was shaped by contact with divine Justinian. As those who serve the Inquisition are shaped by you.
Yeah.
If I change your mind in this conversation, does that mean you're no more real than a spirit?
You've thought about this.
On occasion, yes.
We'll talk later.
Goodbye.
Well, obviously he's thought about it. This is kind of his thing. This is like his singular area of expertise. Netric says, as I understand it, they're manifestations of ideals, both good and bad, justice versus vengeance, compassion versus fear, etc. Major downside is they're limited by their purity of purpose. Yeah, and that's why we were talking about the issue of I mean, that's why Sable brought up the issue of free will, is that they are limited by being precisely what they are and nothing else. Are we already up? We can go out instead. They are precisely the particular emotion, or the particular reason, or the particular manifestation that they are and nothing more. This is Cullen's office. Where's Cullen? Look at that sturdy desk. That's a nice, solidly built desk that will not come up at any other point later on to discuss. Nor will this room will not be important at any point. Unimportant. Entirely unimportant. Let's leave. All right. Anyway, that was like, I don't know, was that a joke? I think that was a joke. Anyway. Alright, so Kevin said, well, Erica, that's one of my concerns. She's not Catholic. I just can't deal with someone, there was a ping. What was the ping? Nothing, I guess. I just can't deal with someone, not loving the Virgin Mary, but I'm also a dude. Well, true. Erica says, you need to let her know up front that you're a Catholic and will never not be Catholic. And then be totally Catholic during the relationship. Yeah, that's, I think, good advice. And, I mean, depending on the circumstances... So, depending on the circumstances, there's always the possibility of her converting, broadly speaking, but I wouldn't rely on that. The view of the troops. As grand as Skyhold is, it will not hold the Inquisition. Oh, like we were saying, it won't hold the Inquisitor's armies. That's what she needs sleeveys for. Anyway. Kevin says she knows, but I'm really charming, so it sticks around. WizKid, good advice. If she isn't violently opposed to Catholicism, I'd say go for it. But then again, this is the intern's opinion. Interns can know stuff. Erica says, if it gets further and you both start thinking about marriage, you let her know up front that you will raise any future children as Catholic. They'll be baptized as infants. It's, no birth control, etc. Yeah, all of that. I see why you wanted my input, Lamau. Yeah, I think that is that's always going to be a hurdle, but it's an important one. And again, it's one of those hurdles that I think is best dealt with early. The army is further protection from the vital heart. Preparations begin for the forces traveling now. They heard the call. Be ready when they get here. Okay. I don't see them, but I assume they're going to be camping down there. Or over there. Or around somewhere. I don't know. Eric says, a radical dedication to the faith does change hearts, but it's most important to not let yourself waver. And if she has questions, be prepared to research the answers, even if you don't know them off the top of your head. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Ooh, chapter 5. Whoop, 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 whoop. We need to read chapter 4 first, which we haven't found yet. And 3. We haven't even found 3. We'll get back to it. Get back to 5.
How is a place like this ever lost?
That's a good question. For another time. And also, yeah, Eric is right. Luckily, kids are more likely to stick to the faith if the father continuously goes to church and is involved with it. It's very true. Statistically, at least, that is the case. We can hope that the statistics play out there. This is the tavern. Come back here. Come back here. Battlements first. We're not going to meet Varric up here just yet. We will eventually. Not just yet. It's a plot thing. Actually, you know what? Screw it. It's a plot thing, but let's do it. Let's do this. Important-ish, but we'll go for it. Stuff down there. Oh, okay. Okay. But yeah, I think that it can be a kind of difficult stumbling block, but it's worth stumbling over first rather than leaving it for later, you know? All right, let's talk to Varric first, and then I want to talk about Kai at some point. So, yeah, default appearance for Hawke, because we just used default Hawke. That's fine. Kevin says, yeah, my hardcore principles on that are another cause of concern. I don't want to get us to get the emotions just to get stonewalled by the facts. Happened to me a lot of times before. It's just facts up front. Facts before feelings. It's not that facts don't care about your feelings, but that they have to inform them. Wizkid says you have to properly catechize them, though, otherwise the teenage rebel phase will totally turn them against it. That can happen regardless, I'm sure. Yeah, we're not the only influence on our kids, obviously. So. Hello. Okay, there we go.
Inquisitor, meet Hawke, the champion of Kirkwall.
Though I don't use that title much anymore.
Hawke, the Inquisitor. I figured you might have some friendly advice about Corypheus. You and I did fight him, after all.
Hey, Sable's meeting Hawke.
This view reminds me of my home in Kirkwall. I had a balcony that overlooked the whole city. I loved it at first. But after a while, all I could see were the people out there depending on me.
WizKid says it has to be totally voluntary on their part. I agree so far, but when you say if the kids don't want to be Catholic anymore, you got to respect that. Depends on what you mean by respect. I think you do need to make it clear that you disapprove. You respect them, but not their choices. I think that kind of has to be crucial. Also, Kevin, I hate that Protestantism ever happened. I think even a lot of Protestants do, honestly.
You heard about Haven.
I have.
That's why we're here now. And why I have battlements instead of balconies.
May they serve you well.
Varric said that you fought Corypheus before.
Fought and killed. The Grey Wardens were holding him, and he somehow used his connection to the Darkspawn to influence them.
Corypheus got into their heads, messed with their minds, turned them against each other.
If the Wardens have disappeared, they could have fallen under his control again.
So Corypheus has the Venatori, the Red Templars, and now possibly the Wardens as well. Wonderful.
I didn't come this far just to give you bad news. I've got a friend in the Wardens. He was investigating something unrelated for me. His name is Stroud. The last time we spoke, he was worried about corruption in the Warden ranks. Since then, nothing.
Corypheus would certainly qualify as corruption in the ranks. Did your friend disappear with them?
No. He told me he'd be hiding in an old smuggler's cave near Crestwood.
If you didn't know about Corypheus, what were you doing with the Wardens?
The Templars in Kirkwall were using a strange form of lyrium. It was red. I'd hoped the Wardens could tell me more about it.
Corypheus had Templars with him at Haven. They looked like they'd been exposed to the lyrium you describe.
Hopefully my friend in the Wardens will know more.
I'll take any lead I can get at the moment.
Good. I'll do whatever I can to help. Corypheus is my responsibility. I thought I'd killed him before. This time, I'll make sure of it. Inquisitor.
Nedrick says Hawke's voice actor is so good. Absolutely. Hard agree. And you can see from this conversation how much I wish they had made Hawke the protagonist of this game. So much. I'm so disappointed they didn't make Hawke the protagonist in this game. And it's all because Dragon Age 2 didn't sell well enough or whatever. I was like, oh, we gotta make a new protagonist. Hawke could have been the shepherd, the commander shepherd of the Dragon Age universe, and instead we get a new protagonist each time. I get it. Okay, fine. It's a cool thing. It's a neat little quirk that Dragon Age has, but man, this should have been Hawke's story. Anyway, Eric says it should not be voluntary going to mass. They aren't 18, go to mass. But you got Vince to have your future kids pass the question, so you're good. It's true. That's true. I'll try and keep doing this. If you have kids who want to pop into the chat and watch me play video games that come out in years, and once we're playing Dragon Age 4 and they're a few years old and want to ask questions, sure. Also, Catholic Answers. That's great. Better source than me. Always ask Jimmy Akin when you can ask Jimmy Akin. I think Kevin says, hell no, my kids are going to mass till they can pay their own bills. Wizkid says, even if you hadn't, you must respect the right to choose. Like, yeah, disapprove, but don't treat them negatively. Otherwise, it just makes it worse. True. There's a careful line there. I think there's a difficult to tread line there between disapproving and disrespecting. Difficult. It's definitely difficult. Wizkid says, it's weird to see Hawke act all exclusively serious. That is true, and I think I do officially have a purple Hawke here. I might have had him set as blue. I forget if he was blue or purple. Whatever. Either way. It's a serious situation, so that's reasonable. Erica says, I wish our 20 charisma and our Curse of Strahd game helped Sable out with flirting. I have, by the way, I included Hawke as an NPC in our Curse of Strahd game. He's stuck in Barovia. Of course he is. He would be. Everything bad happens to Hawke and his family. Stuck there with his family, by the way. Harver got murdered by Strahd, because of course he did. Still got Bethany for now, though. Still got Leander for now, though, too. For now. But no. This kid says, no, it's because gamers are whiny and they think they know the lore better than they know the writers. Yeah, maybe. Erica binged all of Catholic Answers radio show archives, 2,000 plus episodes. Yeah. Yep. I know. When you were kind of still figuring out and discerning too. Mad respect.
Varric's been feeding you information about the Inquisition. What did he say about me?
Only good things, I promise. I was a little surprised, actually. Varric isn't one for religion in general, but he thinks highly of the Inquisition. I think the exact phrase was, "has a good shot at fixing Blondie's mess."
Oh, okay. So all of this does get blamed on Anders. Cool.
I'd like to know more about Anders. What was he like?
I don't know if there ever was just an Anders. He was crazy. By the end, there was nothing left in him except this insane need to start a war no one could win.
Yeah, that's horrifyingly tragic. Tragic in the sense of tragic character writing, like I'm disappointed that they wrote him that way, but also a really good tragic arc for a well-intentioned extremist. Biscuit says, I'm not saying you tolerate that kind of insubordination, but after a while, children change from wholly beholden to you to people learning. That's true. And how to make their own decisions, and in my opinion, it's more important to help them to become individuals than it is to be the keeper of their immortal souls. I don't know. I think those have to go hand in hand. There's no way to separate caring for an immortal soul from caring for raising an individual. Also, gamer whining is the biggest reason why gaming has gotten so stupid lately. No, I don't think so. I think it's wokeist subversion, honestly. I think it's wokeist subversion more so. Also, yes, Erica's a convert. Erica is a convert, in fact. Yeah, I miss Anders. I miss Anders before he merged with Justice. I miss him in Awakening.
You said you thought you killed Corypheus.
The Grey Wardens had him imprisoned. They used my father's blood in a ritual to seal Corypheus inside. But he could still reach out and influence the Warden's thoughts. He sent them after me. And I didn't just think I killed him. When the fight was done, he was dead on the ground. Maybe his tie to the Blight somehow brought him back. Or maybe it's old Tevinter magic. But he was dead. I swear it.
A Wizkid asks, if you didn't kill him, would he show up in Dragon Age Inquisition at all? Talking about Anders. I actually don't know. I've never not killed him. I couldn't tell you. I don't think he does. If anything, he might be mentioned or brought up in a war table mission. But never, he never shows up. As far as I don't think. Be gone, spam bot. Thank you, Erica. Good going. Good. That was quick. Got to it before I even noticed. Certainly before I noticed on the live stream.
Where did you go after the mages rebelled?
I heard the Chantry might be sending an exalted march to Kirkwall to put down the rebellion. I hoped that leaving would save lives and force the Divine to divide her forces to come after me. As it turned out, I needn't have bothered. All the circles started rising up, and the exalted march never came.
That's good, I suppose. So Michael woke up and decided to choose screaming. Yeah, I don't think it can be heard in here, but if it does, that's fine. Yeah, Detrick, I think that's probably right. It says, Naz, Arc as a rival versus a friend is so fundamentally different post-Dragon Age 2 that it would be very difficult to account for that. I think you're right. I do think you're right. That's also why Dalen never shows up, the hero for Ferelden. Because the hero for Ferelden might even be dead, in which case you would have an Orlesian Warden commander instead. And the difference between a Ferelden voice actor and an Orlesian voice actor would have to be accounted for. Difference between a voice actor, selecting a voice actor, would already be nightmarish because you had an unvoiced protagonist. You have the problem of a completely open character creator with a ton of default options. You have a bunch of background stuff to choose from, 3 different races, bunch of different origins. It'd be basically impossible to ever bring in the hero for Ferelden. And I'm disappointed by that, because I love my good old Dalen. And I love my good old Salona, Hawke's cousin, but the other version of the mage. I love, what's her face? The human noble origin, too, but yeah. It's not going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. Whiskey says, but they can't. After a while, they can need to choose for themselves. We do what we can to raise them right, but after a while, they must choose God for themselves. Otherwise, it doesn't really stick in their hearts. Well, of course. But I don't think your job ends there as a parent. I don't think your job ever really ends as a parent. I'm still learning from my parents. I'm like 30. Oh, yeah. Kevin says, being a convert myself, I've seen a drastic difference between converts and cradles. Very true. WizKid says, being a convert is thematically appropriate, Kevin. It's cradle Catholic. I's a cradle Catholic. Yes. Eric was an apathetic agnostic beforehand. Yeah, pretty much. And it's I have found that that you see the difference reflected in the New Testament. That we cradle Catholics tend to be more Petrine, whereas converts tend to be more Pauline in how our faith is manifested. That's what I've found, at least. Now there are exceptions to that, obviously, but that I think that's the trend, that's the tendency. WizKid says, anyway, back to gamer whining. Oh wow, Kevin was helped in by Taylor Marshall and still de facto loyal to him. I didn't realize that. Interesting. WizKid said, back to gamer whining. It's the progressive whining that caused the woke companies to basically go against 30-ish years of gamer culture for stupid trash. That is true. I think that you're right, and it's the listening to a very vocal minority, mostly on Twitter, in comment sections and like games journalism, paper, that kind of thing, and the corruption of games journalism, the whole Gamergate thing. It's true. Honestly, Gamergate was one of the first big social justice warrior or woke pushes. Erica talking about Taylor Marshall said, ew, no wonder you have such angst with goings on in the church. It's true. He sure does. He also has green screen thumbnails on his YouTube videos, which are very fun, apparently. A lot of people mess with those. Justifiably, of course. WizKid says, if I wasn't raised Catholic, I don't know what I'd be. Some weird agnostic neo-pagan, probably. I could see that. Unfortunately, I could see that. Perhaps an Old Testament Christian, like my uncle, whatever that means. It's not quite clear what that could possibly mean, but... WizKid says, yeah, definitely not the biggest fan of Paul. I'm a fan of Paul. I like his writings, but I'm not like him in my spirituality by any means, by any stretch of the imagination. No, I'm very solid and steady, like, I'm very Petrine in that way. Rock-like.
I heard you had family and friends in Kirkwall. Where are they now?
My brother's a Grey Warden. I had my friend Aveline take him as far from Orlais as possible.
That's good.
When all the wardens started acting strangely, I had to keep my family safe.
What's left of it?
Meryl is helping elven refugees who were displaced by the war. I didn't want to take her away from that. Meryl's spent enough time fighting for her life with me.
Aww.
We'll talk later.
I'll meet you at Crestwood.
Well, that means he definitely has to survive, and there is no other option, because we're not taking away the opportunity for him to go reunite with Meryl, because no, absolutely not. That would never be acceptable. Absolutely not. No way. Can't have that. No, let's not go down. Let's sweep the battlements all the way through first. Anyway, so Cobra Kai. All right. It is one of those rare cases which I think does a thematic subversion of the original source material, and does it very well, and does it in a thematically appropriate way that doesn't undermine the original source material. Kevin says, back in the day, Taylor Marshall was solid, and he's not terrible a lot now. But yeah, he has issues here and there. Can't help but love the guy, though. Guys, I'm an AJ fan. Give me a break. Alex Jones, I assume you mean. Fair, I suppose. No, damn it. Whiskey says he has an interesting theology. Hearing a grown-ass man mumble about food restrictions while at the same time being really reverent to Mary because his birthday is a feast of the Ascension. That is strange. Interestingly strange, at least. I like interestingly strange much more than boring strange. Yeah, it's odd. I agree. That's certainly odd. I think though that okay, so I on a similar note of people who I absolutely love in Catholic circles, but I think have gone in weird directions. Patrick Coffin is to the point of flirting with sedevacantism. I think that's tragic to see, given that he was like the host of Catholic Answers for what, like 5 or 6 or 7 years or something, a very long time. Bride of the Maker. Though I am flesh, your light is ever present, and those I have called they remember, and they shall endure. I shall sing with them the chant, and all will know we are yours, and none will stand before us. Canticle of Trials, 15:1. I love the work that went into the Chant of Light as well. There's so much of that that's just really well put together. Really well, really nice. Letter to an Inquisition agent. Okay. I'm worried about you, that sort of thing.
Fertile ground even here. This hold has everything.
Seeds. What seeds can we plant? Ooh, we can plant anything. We need Prophet's Laurel. Put that both places. Oh, we already have one. We need Dawn Lotus. Okay. Yeah, Erica says Coffin's a complete weirdo now. Yeah, sadly. Scaffolding, okay. Problems with people falling, that's not great. It says, oh, Timmy is nothing if not interesting. He also taught me how, assuming your uncle, how to see auras, so I have most of his neo-pagan books if you want a good giggle. Alright then. This actually kind of brings up some thoughts about Cobra Kai. Some interesting thoughts that I'll bring up at some point as well. This kid said, Cobra Kai honestly just gets better and better, especially this last season, and one before last. Binge season 4 in like 2 days. Nice. I binged season 1 in like 2 days. See auras, lol. Okay, yeah.
Elan Vimar.
Good giggle.
Honored to represent the College of Herbalists and offer my services as apothecary.
Nice.
I intend to carry on the work of my esteemed colleague, Adan. He thought highly of you.
Oh.
You will be missed.
We couldn't save Adan, and I'm sad about that. Kevin says all that to say I will defend the Pope when the Pope is defensible. Okay. 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 I think I can get behind that. I'll try and defend the Pope when he's indefensible. But I know when to give up. Put it that way. Eric says, luckily Coffin has changed focus to the outbreak of undetermined origin. The outbreak of undetermined origin, and I haven't noticed him freak out against the Pope recently. That's good, I guess. Directing his focus towards something where he can make a difference. Good. Oh. I did see something about post somewhere about it. WizKid says, no, really may or may not be hallucinating, but hey, it seems viable because radiation or something. Give me a minute. I want to talk about something like that. Something like that.
The enemy took a toll at Haven. It's an unfortunate loss.
He'd probably sneer at the sentiment and say, get back to work. So, we shall. All the mundane needs of Skyhold will be well tended. If you note anything special, let me know. I'm here to serve the cause we must.
Here to serve the cause we must. I like that. Eric says, I don't care about the Pope or anything else above my local priest besides our bishop, who's the tallest bishop, tallest bishop in the world, so haha, we're winning. Winning what? I don't know. Tallest bishop contest. There's a centennial tallest bishop conference. It happens in the 10th year of every century. So I think we won. Maybe it's the 15th year. I don't know. Datrix says, WizKid, some weird Gnostic neo-pagan. I'm in this pick and I don't like it. Technically more capital P polytheist than more than anything else. Faith and lore is fascinating. Yeah, I can see the appeal of something pagan in a sense. And I've always said that if I were somehow convinced that Catholicism were false, I would be something like a Platonic monotheist. Pagan in that sense. But remaining monotheistic. That's not the right way. It's I want to go to the Undercroft after. I'm going to talk to Varric first.
Need something?
I read your Tale of the Champion, and I have a few questions.
That's a pretty common reaction.
I watched you play Dragon Age 2, and I have a couple of questions. Oh, never mind, I guess.
Carry on.
Okay, never mind. Still gotta look for Cole eventually.
Honored, Inquisitor. Got see Sturhold. Did my part on the walls, and now I'm on this
nice
collection you've brought us. Don't know its worth to the fight exactly, but it's good workmanship.
Any ideas about the origins of these reliefs?
We don't really have many yet.
Winter, early. It's in the tool marks, the grain. That's hard dust mined from the 100 Pillars, if I know anything. Oh, I suppose the scene is probably full of Tevinter robes, too.
The 100 Pillars?
Damnedest things. Massive spires that aren't stone. It's like a mortar. Don't know more than that. Strong, though.
Do you have insight into the stories these tiles are supposed to depict?
Tell you what. You finish one, and I'll write it up. Who better, right? A good dwarven perspective.
Alright, cool.
Another time.
Best of the vein, Inquisitor.
Kevin says, I want to push this a bit, but it seems like medieval piety in the information age is just willful ignorance. I mean to be direct, but not rude. I think that's maybe that's true, but under certain circumstances, their willful ignorance in that context, I think, can be a good thing. Right? Willful ignorance, not contrary to wisdom, but rather willful ignorance contrary to the sin of curiosity, which is something I don't fully understand, by the way, but it's something that Aquinas emphasizes quite a bit, ironically, perhaps, of seeking knowledge, not for the sake of understanding, but for the sake of knowing it out of pride and rising above one's station, right? And I think that a sort of medieval piety of ignorance of church matters, of high church matters, can be a way of avoiding that sort of pride, especially if you're prone to it. And I kind of am. And I'm very... Part of why I dismiss a lot of claims about church politics is because I'm incredibly skeptical and incredibly involved in secular politics, and I don't want to think of the church in the same way, because I know I ought not to. And so I think that for me, at least, and this is speaking for me because it's about my own spirituality, my own spiritual journey, and my own spiritual qualms, is that the best way of avoiding accidentally mentally conflating the church with secular politics is to not pay attention to clerical politics, because it's not my business. Something like that. Whiskit says, I'd love to discuss weird religious ideas with you. Maybe I may be Catholic until the day I die, but damned if I don't love to thread all the different ideas together for fun. Don't be too syncretistic. There's a little bit. You can do stuff so long as it's strictly compatible. But be careful. That's all I can say. And I think, and I kind of want to talk about this, because if we're talking about Cobra Kai, I can talk about my own experience with martial arts, especially internal martial arts, and especially Qigong, and what we can learn from that and what we maybe can't learn from that, etc. And Eric says, sure, because it also doesn't matter, Kevin. Jesus promised that the church is protected. I'm definitely not a saint or not in a place to change anything, so all I care about is going to mass. Fair enough. Eric says, seems cool. Seems so cool. Most of my moderate knowledge is limited to East Asian Egyptian mythology. If you ever want someone to talk your ear off about Set, the rest of Egyptian pantheon, cool. I've like a lot of people, I've been fascinated by Egyptian mythology here and there. It's kind of a passing thing for me, but every once in a while, it's just gets in the head, you know. How to act for Elton. Gosh. Pyramids of Parvalan. Cunari pyramids, or pre-Cunari pyramids, technically. First Blight. On a folly of General Not Sheraton. If any of this is particularly of interest, oh, this is. I'm sorry, I have to read this. Figuring. Eric says, why be consistently outraged by things that I can't change? It isn't my vocation. All I'm going to do is raise my kids right, and maybe they'll become the people who can change things. Maybe I'll have to figure out if I should call my own son father, or how the heck that works. Well, Father Michael, who knows? Or the next kid, or the next, well, not the next kid. Next kid's a girl, or the one after that, maybe. Who knows? Metric says, technically I know a little bit about old Irish lore, but in general continental European lore is a blind spot for me. I am really interested in Gaelic folklore, or Celtic, properly speaking, folklore. Both Irish, but more so Welsh. I think Welsh folklore is actually more interesting, the Tyne. Actually, not the Tyne, the Mabinogi. Because I've read both. Mabinogi is actually great stuff. The Tyne's actually really grounded folklore. The Tyne Buchalnaga. The cattle raid of Cullen. Kevin says, can people like Taylor Marshall and Church Militant have the effect of fraternal correction in a situation where the hierarchy seems to be aloof while expressing the impression that it wants to be relevant? Yes. Yeah, and I think the whole being aloof while trying to express relevance, that's a big problem that the church has currently, and I think that's just generally a big problem that aging boomers have overall, kind of in a lot of institutions in society. Not even aging boomers. I think that's kind of a problem that it's also a problem that I think a lot of millennial cultural types do have as well. I think that too. This kid, hell yes, has questions about Egyptian mythology. First interest in mythology from The Mummy, of course. Extras in The Mummy DVD, of course. Mummy's a great movie. Barely anything to do with actual Egyptian mythology. A little bit to do with actual Egyptian history. Imhotep was real. Things like that. But yeah, interesting. I love The Mummy. Eric said, there's a huge gap between being concerned and wanting to privately correct, and causing scandal by causing outrage publicly by complaining and committing the sin of assuming intentions for the views. That can be a problem for some of those types, I think. As a reminder that they make money by having viewers and donations, and the more they get angry and follow them. Yeah, that is true. Whiskey says, I love Wales. The Welsh are the real British. Changed my mind. Yeah. They're the real English. Because the English are French. So yeah. I just like the Scots more, because they're the Picts, if you will. Maybe not mythology-wise, but culturally speaking. Anyway. What is green? Imagine I should present to you an object which, to my mind, is of indisputable greenness, and ask, does this thing appear to you to be green? Naturally, you might say that it does, for you have come to recognize the appearance of the color of the object to be green, associating the word with that what your eyes see. But could it be my understanding of green differs entirely from yours? What if, perchance, you could see into my mind? You might realize that all things that I name green are actually red in your understanding. Without the moorings of objective truth, we are set adrift in oceans of solitary experience. The promising opening of a lecture given by Karsten Grioch, philosopher poet at the University of Orlais. I think that is actually named after Karsten Grioch. I think this is a thought experiment from Saul Kripke. But I could be misattributing that. I apologize. Apologize if I am. The lecture's quality dropped significantly after this point and ended quickly when Grioch subjected audience members to a poorly constructed ode to chartreuse. Don't do that. He fled from the auditorium under fire from students armed with overripe red tomatoes. Kevin says, well, to be fair, perhaps a bit of cringy, the hierarchy has plenty to gain by being politically correct and cozying up with heathen globalists. Maybe. That says audiobook voice. That was my mock video essay voice. That's the voice I use to make fun of video essayists. I hope that's not actually good. the intention of that was to be cringy, not actually pleasing. Ooh. A booze closet with spider webs. Why are there spider webs in the booze closet? Ooh, a kitchens. Nope, just kind of kitchens. Oh, God. Sarah's been here. Once again, please keep the elf out of the kitchen and check the sugar daily to make sure it's still sugar and not salt. Beneath is written, try keeping this out, followed by an arrow pointing to a crude drawing of a phallus. Of course. Thank you, Sarah. You're an adult. Erica says, and God will judge them. Bishop skulls being hell's lampposts and all. Don't act like this is the worst the church has ever been. Arian heresy comes to mind. And, the Arian heresy, the weird stuff in the Renaissance. All that. That was a mess. That was all a mess.
Master Dennett will join us now. A space like this needs an expert.
Kevin says it's not the worst, but it's the most visible it's ever been. That might be true. But again, only because of the massive information age that we live in. I don't know. We can buy stuff here and we can sell stuff here, which I'll do eventually, probably off stream.
What? Assassins? Templars? Mages? Magisters? No. Who? What are them? Sisters? Nobles? Merchants?
Anyway.
Elves, you twit! Is that it?
Anyway. Yeah, I've had some thoughts about Cobra Kai. I think that it is incredibly subversive. Oh wait, no, I don't want to leave. Stop it. I don't want to leave. I'm coming back. There's a great deal of subversion of the original story. However, with the titular dojo being the previous villainous one, right? Cobra Kai and all that. Following Johnny Lawrence, who was literally the villain last time. All these sorts of things. But I think that it does it very, very well. And not only does it do it very well, it does it for very good reasons.
Yes, Commander.
I think why I think that it works so well, and why it worked in the original Karate Kid in the 80s, was because each is teaching its own version of a lesson of balance. And, Johnny's whole finding balance thing, which just echoes Mr. Miyagi's finding balance thing, and all of that, is the whole thing about what the show and what the whole series, going back to the first Karate Kid movie, is going for. And I think that having this narrative inversion happen He is exactly how that needs to be done because our culture has undergone a narrative inversion. Okay? In the 80s, we had a massive overemphasis on the harsh side of masculinity. And to the extent of the dismissal of the peaceful, centered side of masculinity. And so when we had Karate Kid 1, we had Mr. Miyagi teaching Daniel to center himself, to find balance, to find peace with himself and outside, and not strike out. Not strike first, strike hard, no mercy, and do all of the opposite of the whole Cobra Kai thing. Yeah, great. Absolutely. Like, today that seems kind of, unnecessary at best and cringy at worst, right? But in the 80s, that was the problem with culture. And providing a subversion of that, providing a tempering force in a narrative form like Karate Kid, in something really cool and hyper-masculine like Karate Kid, providing a tempering, softening force, peaceful force, was incredibly useful at the time from a cultural standpoint. But now, you've got Johnny Lawrence running Cobra Kai, running it just like it was run in the 80s, of strike first, strike hard, no mercy, badass, kick ass, no dealing with pussies, tons of gendered language all over if we're making the joke from the second episode or whatever. All this, right? And it is because our culture has flipped. Right? It flips. Our culture flipped over because I mean, well, I'm not going to get into why. Our culture's flipped over. That's obvious to everyone, right? There's an excess of squishiness to our culture, of softness. And so the harshness of Cobra Kai provides a counterbalance to that. And even, I will say, even the harshness of Miyagi-Do, of Daniel's teaching, and the harshness of Danny being a dick, because he's totally a dick in Cobra Kai, at least in season 1. The harshness that we see it provides an incredible contrast to the soft namby-pambiness of pussification of modern culture. Right. Now WizKid's challenging me here, and that's fine, and I'll talk to this as well. I like I said, I've only seen season 1 so far, so hold your horses a little bit. He says, through the flashback stuff later in the show, it makes it clear that Johnny's way more gray than we originally understood him to be. Also, Kreese shaped him into that, which gets addressed. I did see Kreese show up at the end, at the last scene. So, there's that. Yeah. It's that I think that the big part of it, big thing, is that we have to achieve balance by pressing against the major cultural force, whatever it happens to be. Right? The overbalance on one side or the other. He wants in? Okay, Michael can come say hi if he wants. Okay. Hi, Michael. Come here. Come here. Come here. No, he wants back. He's leaving. Everyone say bye, Michael. It was a fun little visit. No, he's leaving. No, he wants to sit in my chair.
No, you're not.
All right. Anyway. Say words. Say some stuff. Grab my microphone. That works. You're not making any cute little baby noises. Why not? I'm not making you giggle. Let me tickle you. Let me tickle you. Let me tickle you. Tickle you. Let me tickle you. Alright, that's enough. He's not making cute little baby noises.
Oh.
Oh, squeakles.
Oh, no.
No, he got stretched. Alright, bye. Oh, he's so upset. Oh no, it's his bedtime. He's up late. He stays up late. We're working on him. He's going from baby to toddler, so his bedtime is getting normalized now. Anyway, so this is, I think, relevant here. This is a traditional Chinese kung fu salute. It's not used in karate exactly. They have different traditions and whatever. Fine. I'm familiar with kung fu. I'm going to use kung fu as an example. Why this? This is a specific salute in kung fu, and it's a specific salute for not for monks and not for warriors. They use different salutes for different contexts. This is for martial artists, for warrior monks, and it represents this kind of balance, because the fist represents the harsh, the striking force, which is very important. It's what we use to fight. It's what we use to defend ourselves. It's what we use to get things done. The open palm represents peace, cooperation, and wisdom. They come together in this way. Not like this, and not like this, but like this. Because peace remains what it is, while tempering over harshness, violence. This, which is a more militaristic salute, because peace conforms to violence. This is simply peace, and there is nothing harsh about it. There's nothing strong about it. And that is the balance between the two. And you need both, right? You need the balance between the two. And I think that Cobra Kai, so far at least, and this is only season 1, really, I think it's doing exactly what it needs to do for our broken, pussified culture, to call it how Johnny would, right? And I mean, I know at least in season 1 he's kind of turns out to be a bit of a dick, but like Hawke, or Lip, or whatever his actual name was, Elijah, right? I can kind of sympathize with that. I had a mohawk in high school because I was a weirdo, or middle school and then into high school, because I was otherwise a weirdo, and that was my, I'm taking control of this, just like in the show. I love that. I love that little bit, and man, Johnny's teaching him a lesson. Taught him a really good lesson by being a complete dick to him, because it's exactly what he needed. The harshness that he doesn't get anywhere else. And by being an inversion of the old Karate Kid from the 80s, it manages to teach the same lesson, but the other side of it, using the same methodology, martial arts, which has this balance to it. Learning to fight so that one does not have to. Right? In the 80s, we needed to emphasize the not having to. Now we need to emphasize the ability to fight, the toughness. And so it's teaching both lessons. Now it's just teaching the one that's necessary for our particular cultural circumstance. And I love it. I love that. I love that about this. Now it shows the danger of excess, which is good, and that's important as well. And it's something I think the last the original ones didn't, or at least one didn't really show, and the dangers of an excess of softness. I didn't actually, to be fair, I haven't watched Karate Kid 2 or 3 ever, but I digress. Yeah. I also have to say one other thing as well about the show. Something that's, I think, interesting is that we are in a weird age where we have media that is directed at Gen X and Zoomers that skips over us millennials, because we were too young for the original Karate Kid. I was born well after it came out. Millennials were that wasn't our thing. It was a Gen X thing. It was definitely a Gen X thing. And now it's the kids in the show are the Zoomers. Who are the millennials in the show? I don't know. Like, there's a couple of them floating around, but I guess Johnny's dickhead cousins are maybe millennials, but I don't know. Yeah, no, it is one of those things where it's, I think, most impactful for the kids these days and people who are a little older than me. Be some things. This kid said Cobra Kai definitely gets that, and that's what I love about the later seasons, the coming together of the two, the synthesis. Yeah, and I look forward to seeing it. I really do.
Inquisitor, is there something I can do for you? I should really focus my attention on the injured.
That's good. No, I'll let you focus. That's fine.
As you were, your worship.
That's fine. But yeah, I do think that that is one thing I really, really like about Cobra Kai is this balance, which is, again, it's intrinsic in Eastern martial arts, and the philosophy behind Eastern martial arts.
Send men to scout the area. We need to know what's out there.
Yes, sir.
Commander, soldiers have been assigned temporary quarters.
Very good. I'll need an update on the armory as well. Now! We set
They went to
up as
Okinawa
best
in season
we
3.
could at
Neat.
Haven, but could never prepare for an archdemon, or whatever it was. With some warning, we might have...
Do you ever sleep?
If Corypheus strikes again, we may not be able to withdraw. And I wouldn't want to. We must be ready. Work on Skyhold is underway. Guard rotations established. We should have everything on course within the week. We will not run from here, Inquisitor.
That's good.
How many were lost?
Most of our people made it to Skyhold. It could have been worse. Morale was low, but has improved greatly since you accepted the role of Inquisitor.
Everyone has so much faith in my leadership. I hope I'm ready.
You won't have to carry the Inquisition alone, although it must feel like it. We needed a leader, and you have proven yourself.
Thank you, Cullen. Our escape from Haven, it was close. I'm relieved that so many made it out.
As am I. You stayed behind. You could have... I will not allow the events at Haven to happen again. You have my word.
Alright, let's look for Cole. Who is weird, by the way. Biscuit says, it just makes me happy because as a Zoomer, I definitely identify more with Gen X than with Millennials. All the Millennials I've ever met were have disappointed me in some fundamental way or another. Oh no, another bot. Kill it. No, I get you. I apologize on behalf of my awful generation. Ooh.
This thing is not a stray puppy you can make into a pet. It has no business being here.
Wouldn't you say the same of an apostate?
Inquisitor, I wondered if Cole was perhaps a mage, given his unusual abilities.
He can cause people to forget him, or even fail entirely to notice him. These are not the abilities of a mage. It seems that Cole is a spirit.
It is a demon.
If you prefer, although the truth is somewhat more complex.
How do I feel about Steel Wind Strike on Emrys? I don't actually know the spell offhand. Couldn't tell you. Probably bad. Oh, you're not a Blade Singer? Oh, it's one of those, isn't it? Yeah. Don't take Blade Singer spells. Sorry to say.
I'm not sure how much more complexity I need, Solus.
Indeed, my dear. He may call it whatever he likes, but it is still a threat.
In fact, his nature is not so easily defined.
Speak plainly, Solus. What are we dealing with?
Demons normally enter this world by possessing something. In their true form, they look bizarre, monstrous.
But you claim Cole looks like a young man. Is it possession?
No. He has possessed nothing and no one. And yet he appears human in all respects. Cole is
That's
unique,
weird.
Inquisitor. More than that, he wishes to help. I suggest you allow him to do so.
What do you mean by possession?
Spirits and demons cross over from the Fade
by attaching themselves to something in this world. But Cole has willfully manifested in human form without possessing anyone.
The demons who came through the breach, or through the rifts, weren't possessing anything.
These demons were drawn through against their will, driven mad by this world. But Cole predates the breach. From what we can tell, he has lived here for months, perhaps years.
It's really weird.
He looks like a young man. For all intents and purposes, he is a young man. It is remarkable.
Kevin says, it's hard for me to differentiate my political philosophy, leaning libertarian, distrustful of authority, to everything else, including the church. I think it's an issue for a lot of Americans. Me too. I try very hard to fix that. Hoppa has been helpful for that. Hoppa has been very helpful for that sort of thing. This says, libertarian Catholicism is definitely complicated, possibly complicated. Yeah, and again, I think it helps to follow a lot of solid Catholics who are also solid libertarians. My chief recommendations are Tom Woods, obviously, Lou Rockwell, Jeffrey Tucker, really weird take, but Jay Richards. This is a deep cut. Jay Richards. I think he's trained as a biologist, but he also does economics and theology. He's a weird duck. He's great. My favorite book of his that I've read, he actually wrote a book that I've heard really good things about on the COVID panic, on the governmental response to the pandemic and all that, that I really want to read. I haven't gotten around to yet. But The Hobbit Party that I've mentioned before, he co-wrote it with another author, and he's a convert to Catholicism, and he's libertarian, anarchist leaning, but I don't think quite, but something like that. But yeah, he's great. Also, Robert Higgs. He's a philosopher, a political philosopher. He's a very devout Catholic, and an anarcho-capitalist. Kevin says, it's people. People are in the state and in the church, so it's hard to trust people with power, regardless of the institution. The only way I can do it is through a miracle, because the divine institution of the church is something that we kind of have to trust in. We're required to, and the only reason to trust it. If you lose faith in that, then there's no reason to trust any institutional structure, which is, again, why I think that once you get rid of something like apostolic succession and the intervention of the Holy Spirit and of the Holy See, that you immediately fall into something like, Evangelibapticostalism, small independent Baptist or whatever kind of thing. WizKid says, power inherently corrupts and collects, and the church has a history of both. It's natural for us libertarian types to be wary. Yeah, at least wary of the individuals involved. Yeah, Erica says there's some amazing. So we're leveling up to 9 in our Friday night D&D game. Both me and Eddie. There's some great 5th level spells because we have 2 spellcasters in the party. I'm playing a cleric and he's playing a wizard. Clerics at least don't have to pick so often, so I can take Flame Strike to my heart's content. It's a good one. But there's a bunch of other really good ones too. Dawn could be very useful. But anyway, let's talk to Cole.
I should hear what Cole has to say for himself. Where is he now?
If none of us remember him, he could be anywhere.
Great. Oh, hey, there he is. He just kind of disappears. That's neat. Good asset, if nothing else.
So many soldiers fought to protect the pilgrims so they could escape. Choking fear. Can't think from the medicine, but the cuts rack me with every heartbeat. Hot, white pain. Everything burns. I can't. I'm going to... I'm dying. I'm... dead.
Glad to see you're settling in, Cole. Here I was worried you'd have trouble making friends.
He's a spirit. Can he understand sarcasm?
Every breath slower. Like lying in a warm bath. Sliding away. Smell of my daughter's hair when I kiss her goodnight. Gone. Cracked brown pain. Dry. Scraping. Thirsty. Here.
Thank you.
It's all right. She won't remember me.
This is neat. This is very neat. That also has to be horrifyingly traumatic, like empathetically living the last moments, the death of people over and over again like that.
Solus tried to explain what you are, but honestly, I stopped listening after a while. Any chance you could explain it?
Yes.
That's very Sable.
I used to think I was a ghost. I didn't know.
Someone's talking about weird magic
made
stuff. I don't get it.
mistakes, but I made friends too. Then a Templar proved I wasn't real. I lost my friends. I lost everything. I learned how to be more like what I am. It made me different, but stronger. I can feel more. I can help.
If you're willing, the Inquisition could use your help.
Yes, helping. I help the hurt. The helpless. There's someone. Hurts. It hurts. It hurts. Someone make it stop hurting. Make her, please. The healers have done all they can. It will take him hours to die. Every moment will be agony. He wants mercy. Help.
You say he won't die for hours yet, but you can't know that for certain.
His body is failing.
He could recover, or the healers could find another way to help him.
How do you know?
I don't, and neither do you. That's part of life.
Try. I want to stay.
Yeah, so I think that's one of those. That's actually a really okay. That's one approach to the issue of assisted suicide or euthanasia or whatever you want to call it, mercy killing, if you will. Is that I think there is this issue, right? Of well, what if we come up with something? What if we can help? But beyond that, any kind of suicide, even in the face of something horrible, is a kind of rejection of the good of this life, the intrinsic good of this life. That's not something we should ever do. Oh man. Okay, I'm gonna catch up with all this. Hold on. Kevin, I think you're right. Given that that's so reasonable to be wary of people in positions of power, I don't see why people like Taylor Marshall are so maligned. I see people like him as giving voice to reasonable frustrations. I think that's true. It's the way he has of approaching things that is sometimes irreverent.
Someone left sliced plums on the windowsill again. The juice is attracting flies.
I think it can be irreverent and
Plums were right in front of me, but I can't quite recall who took them.
and that I think that it can be irreverent and that can present problems. I think that's kind of why Dexter said it's weird how televangelists went the way of the dodo with the advent of the internet. Same with AM radio. AM radio is still around. There are still like radio jockeys. That's still kind of a thing. A lot of them became podcasters. Wizkid said that they're still around, just not as obvious. Actually, what I most enjoy watching is religious spiritual systems grow and develop. So all the cults out there fascinate me. A lot of those are at least interesting, even if not useful, even if they're not going to actually produce much. They're interesting to watch for their own, for like sociological reasons. Useful isn't the right word, but they're not not correct, and also not going to develop into anything really. They'll fizzle out, but they're not really. But watching them do so is watching the life cycle, the social life cycle, is interesting. Kevin said, I didn't start out with my issues with Taylor Marshall. I started with hearing the current Pope talk. Yeah, I mean, and I get that. That said, you said earlier that the Pope has been really based lately. I don't think it's lately. I think it's just that often we don't hear it because what he says that's actually good and doctrinal and doctrinaire and based, if you want to call it that. The secular media doesn't like reporting on it because he's nice progressive Pope to them. So, when he says stuff like gender and sex do not vary independently. Did you know that was in not Laudato Si? That was in Amoris Laetitia. It is. He has a whole section on it. No one talks about it. Erica says, maybe the problem was that you misinterpreting or assuming intentions. Reminder that English isn't his first language, and people constantly misinterpreting and mistranslating. Like the time he said God isn't a divine being. Well, that's because he said demiurgos in Italian. God isn't a demiurge. Well, yeah, obviously. He's just asserting classical theism, and everyone's like, oh no, he thinks God is immanent instead of transcendent, and meanwhile he's saying the opposite. That's a real issue. That's a real issue. Now, that said, I think Kevin has a solid point that he says, in the early years of his papacy, he collaborated with known globalists, ecological ideologues, abortionists. Why? He's not ignorant. I can't think the Pope is incompetent on that level. I think he can be. I don't think we should rule that out. And I think that, if nothing else, we can say that maybe he thought he was ignorant enough to think that he could cooperate with them and do good through them. I mean, God does, so maybe the church can. Now, maybe it's going to corrupt the temporal institution of the church, or the church qua-temporal institution, more than it's going to do good things in the world. Maybe more than the church is going to be able to do good things through them. But I don't know. That's not. I mean, like Erica's kind of saying as well, that's not my place to say that. I don't know.
I see.
Scout Harding.
Your worship.
Like, I think I can give a charitable reading of why he interacted with terrible people. Often. At least in a lot of cases. Charitable interpretation, not charitable reading. You get what I'm saying. Even if it's not always the case, and even if it was terribly naive, I think it can be that he may have had very noble intentions but it turned out poorly just because, terrible people are very good at manipulating people. Actually, very good at manipulating people with honest and good intentions, and who aren't familiar with them. Someone says he is surrounded by people who are unaware of. Is he surrounded by people who are unaware of American culture? The Vatican is a globally connected nation state with diplomatic capabilities. I mean, yeah, maybe. I don't know if it matters enough for him to be connected to American culture. Yeah, we're kind of important culturally, but yeah. But it's not like we're the only important part of the world by any stretch of the imagination. And he has been. He's been addressing some American cultural issues here and there, and I think in a lot of cases addressing them well. In some cases, maybe again foolishly, as Eric is saying, attributed to ignorance rather than malice. Things like gun control issues and stuff like that. I think he's mistaken. I don't think he's evil, but his mistakes are playing into the hands of evil people in a lot of cases. That's all. That's probably my view on Pope Francis's missteps.
So who's Scout Harding really?
Me? Oh, I'm no one.
Lived near Redcliffe all my life. Herded sheep for my neighbor.
Oh, WizKid, synaptic
When
static's
the
pretty good.
Inquisition came through my village, I helped by telling them everything I knew about the area. Then I signed on. Wanted to see the world before it was swallowed up by that thing out there.
Okay.
What's been going on?
Sister Liliana glanced at me today. I think she's gonna have me killed.
That sounds like Liliana.
I have to go.
I'm not as familiar with siebing, but I like illusion magic in general. So, alright. Alright. Maeve. Hi, Maeve. Welcome.
Thank you for saving my life and giving us a chance to help. I'm mostly studying now, but Hellisma can talk to you.
Watch us here.
So, Inquisitor. It is Inquisitor now, right? Remember that war we talked about stopping? Full of little baddies I can stick with little arrows. That's not a friggin' archdemon, is it? Trust me, what does stop him?
Maybe nobody saw this coming, but you knew how I got the job.
I know what people said, but people believe all sorts of shite when they're scared. Swear at a farmer and you've cursed his crops. Spill the salt and you're dead by dawn. Dance through town in a goat's head and children people never had go missing.
What?
I can't help you if you don't explain what's wrong exactly.
It's got to be nonsense, doesn't it? We're kind of screwed if it isn't. I mean, that Carifi thing. A magister, right? Story is, he cracked the Golden City. But that's a hazy dream. If not, seat of the Maker, real thing. A seat needs a book, so the Maker, real thing. Fairy stories about the start and end of the world, real things. It's too far, isn't it? I just want to plug the Skyhold rubbish so I can go play.
Oh my god. Sarah is having a crisis of unfaith. I love it. She's encountering the harsh truth that the Maker's real and all that. Just great.
You joined to help the little people caught up in this. But do you believe or not?
In Andraste? Of course.
But you doubt what you're seeing and hearing.
It can't be true. Even fanatics don't want to be this right. Look, I have arrows. I can make this Cariphilus believe in those. Good enough? Please be good enough.
Oh my god. First of all, one, she believes like any other given like teenager. Like, yeah, I believe in God, but I don't like think it's true. Oh my gosh. Like it's a crisis of faith in the opposite direction of usual. It's the holy shit, this is real kind of thing. It's the reality of it just smashing through her teenage angst. I assume she's a teenager. I'm pretty sure she is. Man, that's great to see. There are moments. This is one of those few moments where I actually like Sarah, or at least I don't know if I like Sarah, but she's interesting. She's at least interesting.
I'm fighting magisters. I need you aiming higher than simple selfishness.
Lumpy wants to be a god, and you glow or something. I just want to fix things so I don't have to think about what's real or not. High enough, my lady.
Yeah, okay.
Belief may decide what happens. You can't rule it out.
Right, well, shout me up when the gods show. I'll be here, loony.
Yeah, okay. And then, so there's great moments, and then there's moments of just like, oh, well, okay, never mind. I thought she was having a good moment. Oh, gosh.
Maker,
We're not
you're
going
a
to leave
mess.
Skyhold this
Let me have
entire
a look at you.
session, are we?
Are
No,
you all
I don't
right,
think
my
so.
dear? Were you hurt? You look dreadful.
You should have seen me an hour ago.
We should do something about this dirt. We don't need you frightening the faithful. Let's keep up appearances. You've handled this crisis competently, saving as many lives as you did. But the enemy struck a serious blow against you and the Inquisition. We must recognize that. You must.
You're wrong. We now have a better location and far more people at our disposal. This couldn't have worked out better if I'd planned it.
I mean, except for the
Yet
people who
we
died.
can hardly rely upon the whims of Providence to give us all our victories. This
think we
defeat may
can.
have turned to our advantage, but it will not last long. Our enemy advances, Inquisitor. We must not sit idly by. Act first and teach them to fear us. I think you know what needs to be done, my dear.
Okay, she's a hard ass.
So, this is Skyhold. Come, let's walk the ramparts. I want to examine our fortifications. We'll be able to see Corypheus coming from miles away.
Corypheus thinks we're beaten. By the time he finds us, we'll be legion.
I know soldiers. I know our soldiers. Corypheus made 100 enemies when he kicked down our door. And when he came after you, he really made it personal. I swear I'll take that twisted bastard down, even if I have to die to do it.
Okay, Erica, here's the question. Should we go ahead flirting with Blackwall, or is his beard and baby lips just too distracting and we're just gonna go no on this one? What do you think? Okay, I'm gonna jump into this conversation here because I've been watching, but it's going too fast. It's going too fast for me to keep narrating. So here, being Kevin said, could be used as a defense for the secular state. That would only be the case if you already assume that the secular state is both natural and innately valid. I don't think we should do that, because I don't think that it is the state per se. The secular state is the natural institution. Now we can use a kind of sit back and play one's role in society as a justification for one's role in the social order. And I think that this is I think a key part of sort of libertarian theory, particularly anarchist theory, anarcho-capitalist, broadly speaking, right anarchist theory. It's that the state is not society. It's not society per se. This was what Bastiat pointed out. But it's also not... The libertarian point is that the state is... It's not only that it isn't society, it's not the proper social order. It's not even part of the proper social order. Right? It is something that is parasitic upon the natural social order. And it's something it's something that intrudes upon the natural social order. And so the state is not that to which we owe any allegiance. Because again, this gets back to that distinction I was making very, very early on between power and authority. The state has power, but no authority, simply by definition. And that is because it exercises power that goes beyond what authority it would have. It loses the authority that it does have by showing itself to be unjust per se. This is something that I've already written some of for for my dissertation, because again, which will, I hope, someday turn into a book on anarcho-monarchism. So okay, on the discussion of Blackwall that's going on in there, I think we are going to go with Cullen in this playthrough, because I apparently just can't not do that. But for those interested who have not seen the romance with Blackwall, I'll put a full video of the whole thing. Excuse me, of the full Blackwall romance in the description. That said, careful, because there are some story spoilers in it, so if you have not played or seen this game before, avoid that. But at some point, it is a good romance. It's a good story, albeit not good for Sable, obviously, because the whole like Detrick said, it's a good atonement story. It is. But the whole leaving you naked in a barn thing, and then betraying you, and then leaving you, and then leaving the Inquisition, and all that comes with it for reasons that I won't get into, because spoilers. But there are reasons. Yeah, Wizkid says it absolutely exists outside the natural social order, meaning the state, not Cullen leaving you naked in the barn. That does too. That also exists outside the natural social order, but the state in particular, as we were saying, yeah, it is parasitic upon society. What about the egg? What about the egg, Wizkid? Talking about romance? Well, not playing an elf. So, the answer is no to that, obviously.
You see this as a personal insult, don't you?
If it's not personal for you, maybe it should be. The people flock to your banner, eager to fight for the Herald of Andraste. Their faith is a leash, and your Inquisition has taken hold of it. Tell me honestly, are you what they say you are? Andraste's chosen?
I was chosen by Andraste. She saved me. We shouldn't question it.
I don't. We all need to believe in something.
Okay. I mean, he thinks that it's true, or just that he's going to kind of go along with it? That's open to interpretation, I think. All right, we've got Bull to talk to, and Cassandra to talk to over here. What Kevin said, I think this is one of the big issues that Radtrads have. I think a lot of them started as confused conservatives and got shut down and accused of irrational anger. Yeah, maybe. And I think that honestly, the biggest problem is not the progressives and it's not the Radtrads in the church. I mean, it is the fight. The fight between them is the biggest problem. And I think that I don't think that the Radtrads are entirely wrong. I don't think they're entirely right. And I don't think the progressives are even entirely wrong. At least insofar as they say that the Radtrads are going too far. It's that they react so hostilely to each other that they focus against each other instead of towards the church. And that becomes a problem, especially, and I mean, even I think even the Holy Father is maybe guilty of this, but not without reason. Not without reason. So I don't know. It's a difficult dispute. Wizkid says, "Wonder what happens if he came onto him in any way." I think he just shoots down. Says, "Nope, not interested." I don't think he even says why, really. Erica says, "The dumb cat is sitting on my desk and I'm petting a whole new cat off of her. It's getting into my keyboard." Yeah, that's how she works. That's how she works.
So, that Tevinter guy sent you into the future?
Oh.
I've got no problem with normal magic, but Tevinter goes beyond all reason.
I know, right? The Vints are always pushing.
What was that little...
Inquisitor, huh? Well, you've got the fortress for it. Speaking of which, when you've got a second, there's something I want to show you.
What did you want me to come see?
Here, come on. I'll show you.
Oh, this is kind of silly. This little cutscene thing. This is a little silly, but all right. Loading screen. Don't worry. We're getting there.
Why am I dressed like this?
You'll see. Come on. It'll be worth your time, I promise. Evening. Iron Bull. My merc band just joined up.
Tanner. I'm from Jader. Well, near Jader.
Mira. I was guard captain for Lady Pendel. Signed on after shit blew up at the Conclave. Share a drink? Who's your friend?
This is Grim. She doesn't talk much.
Huh.
So, you ready to kill some demons? Or Venatori? Or whatever that Corypheus asshole is?
This isn't just about killing. We're helping the Inquisitor save the world and build the next empire.
Well, long as I get paid, I'm happy. That's why I signed up.
I just couldn't spend my whole life on a farm. Needed to live a little, you know.
What about you, Mira? Why'd you join up? I thought you were serving some noble.
I saw what happened at Haven. The Inquisitor staring down that monster and his archdemon. I don't sing the chant of light as much as I should. But you can't see something like that and not believe.
Well, Grim and I should find our tents. Thanks for the drink.
Wizkid, yes, that's kind of a normal Qunari. He's also Ben Hasrath, so he's a spy. But
I know every soldier under my command.
he's a little less crazy than most Qunari.
But a few faces might help.
He's a little less fanatical than most Qunari, despite being a Ben Hasrath, basically a Qunari spy. He's outright and straightforward about being a Qunari spy, though, so there's that. Evan, I think you're right. It's weird that the Pope doesn't restrict progressives nearly as much as with nearly as much veracity as he does the trads. And I think WizKid's got the right reason. It's because the trads are louder. The progressives are clever and insidious. And I mean, Kevin says, "I'm sorry, guys. I made this time not fun. I probably need to go need to go and work things out." I mean, sure, yeah. I mean, you need to work things out. It's a good conversation though. And I've been jumping in and out of it, to be fair. But I do think that I think that WizKid's point there is super important. Super important. That it's because it is subtle that they don't get stomped. They know when to push. They know when not to. The Germans, I think, are pushing too far. A lot of the German progressive bishops are pushing too far, and they're getting some pushback. Even from the Pope, they're getting some pushback. But most of the rest of the world are not really. Well, Whiskers is a moderate. Iron Bull, a moderate? No. Iron Bull is a very devoted Qunari. He's very practical. He's very devoted to the Qun. He takes the Qun very seriously, almost perfectly seriously. He gives himself a name, which is forbidden by the Qun, but still. He is a loyal Qunari patriot, really, in basically every way that matters. But we'll wind up seeing. Are we frozen? Uh-oh, I'm seeing some connection issues. Still says excellent connection. Maybe it's just weird. I'll keep an eye on it. But I think that a big issue with Iron Bull that we're gonna wind up seeing gradually is that he winds up with at least potentially conflicting loyalties that we're gonna have to deal with eventually. And there are very good, very solid reasons for those conflicting loyalties. Is everything frozen? What is happening here? Sorry about that, if there were some weird isms there.
I knew some of the soldiers felt like that, but to actually hear it...
It's hard to be just an idea sometimes. That's all you are to most of them. It's why you could stand right in front of them without being recognized. You've got a good army coming along. Remember that, no matter what comes next.
Sandra. Oof, I'm getting some jitters here in the frame rate and stuff. Sorry about that. Let's check out what this is, and then we'll talk to Cassandra. Oh, hey, it's Hawke. Hi, Hawke. Ooh, sad weapon. We got a sad weapon.
Consider it done.
Kevin is strong-willed and stubborn. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Oh, Erica is too. Well, yeah, both of you are. And that's why there was some conflict going on. But it was I think it was respectful conflict.
Oh, Bells, it's you. Morris. Sir Morris, I suppose.
Oh,
I am
okay.
serving as quartermaster for Skyhold and its arriving throngs. Stores are growing, and so long as we have fair coin to restock, you and yours will be well served.
The previous quartermaster survived Haven. Where is she?
She had views. Has views. Perfectly legitimate ones if you share them, Inquisitor. I believe it was felt that your quartermaster should be more palatable now that the Inquisition is in Orlais.
What now?
She continues to serve, just not at the fore.
The hell are you talking
As you
about?
are.
We are here for you, Inquisitor.
I have no idea what he's talking about there. That's confusing. Erica, I don't know if you've been passive-aggressive at any point. You've been aggressive, but I think that's probably fine. I don't think that we're gonna have that same issue of what you're referring to. Oh gosh. Oh no, wait a minute, hold on. Greetings, Singquisition. Oh gosh, Eddie laughed. She made a joke. It's true. Allegedly. Gosh. I hope you're excited for our next meeting. I certainly am. I'm not gonna go on with this. There's an Inquisition chorus. Congratulations. Howdy, Hawke. Anything? Hello? Hello? Nope. Okay. Guess not. Guess not. Howdy, Cassandra. How you doing? This isn't where I found you. Oh, cool. She's killing Varric. Nice.
You knew where Hawke was all along.
You're damned right I did.
You conniving little shit.
He's very wily.
Kidnapped me. You interrogated me. What did you expect?
Okay, guys. Do we let this happen, or do we intervene? Debate in the comments. I'll be back in like 1 minute or so. Okay, consensus seems to be just let it happen. I've brought a guest. This is Angel. This is the one who had a full cat pet out of her fur. And the consensus seems to be stay out of it. It'll be funny. Stop it.
I expected you to tell the truth.
Oh, Varric's
I
mad.
told you what was at stake.
So I just hand him over on your say-so?
Meow.
It's okay, Hawke. This zealot isn't crazy. I promise. Look at her. She's finally lost it.
This is no. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. Sable's gonna tell him to stop. Sable's gonna tell him to stop. He's too level-headed for this.
All right, you've both made your points. We needed someone to lead this Inquisition. First, Liliana and I searched for the hero of Ferelden, but he had vanished. Then we looked for Hawke, but he was gone too. We thought it all connected, but no. It was just you. You kept him from us.
The Inquisition has a leader.
Hawke would have been at the Conclave if anyone could have saved Most Holy.
You can't change
It
the
is
past,
funny, but-
Cassandra.
So I must accept... what? That the Maker wanted all this to happen? That he...
Sorry. What?
Varric is a liar, Inquisitor. A snake. Even after the Conclave, when we needed Hawke most, Varric kept him secret.
He's with us now. We're on the same side.
We all know whose side you're on, Varric. It will never be the Inquisition.
Ooh, that's not nice. I'm stuck between that's unfair or we need to work together. I don't know which. I don't know. This is tough. I mean, okay, Wizkid says Hawke should have been the leader. Well, Andraste and the Maker chose Sable, not Hawke. So there you go. So there. This whole I mean, narratively speaking, you're right, but shut up. But at the same time, this whole story is about providence. Is really about divine providence. And man, oh man, there is some divine providence going on with Sable here. So, all right, let's just stick with it. Yeah, she's kind of dead wrong. That's totally unfair. Sandra, that's mean. Don't be mean.
That's
Don't be that
unworthy
mean.
of you.
Cassandra, gaslight,
I must
gatekeep,
not think
girl
of what could
boss.
have been. We have so
Nice one,
much
Detrick.
at
Yeah, that's
stake.
fair enough.
Go, Varric. Just go.
Yeah, Erica, good point. If Hawke was there, he probably would be dead.
You know what I think?
So that's not good.
If Hawke had been at the temple,
Oh, here you go.
he'd be dead too. You people have done enough to him.
I believed him. He spun his story for me and I swallowed it. If I just explained what was at stake, if I just made him understand. But I didn't, did I? I didn't explain why we needed Hawke. I'm such a fool.
See, this is kind of my favorite thing about Cassandra, is that she is really honest with herself. Even if she's not honest with everyone else, she's very honest with herself. She can admit fault like this. But can still take the responsibility and take the responsibility moving forward, not just despair. I really do like Cassandra. I really do. If I could ever bring myself to play a male Inquisitor, I would like to do her romance at some point, which is another great one, but I don't know.
What if you hadn't believed him and you'd tracked Hawke down?
Honestly, Hawke might not even have agreed to become Inquisitor. He supported the Mage Rebellion after all. he wouldn't have trusted me for a second.
That's true.
But this isn't about Hawke or even Varric. Not truly. I should have been more careful. I should have been smarter. I don't deserve to be here.
I don't know about that. Yeah, WizKid, I love how Hawke is still Varric's best friend. Absolutely. He is like 100% bros.
We can't afford any more mistakes.
You think I don't know that?
I'm making sure.
I want you to know. I have no regrets. Maybe
after what you just said, really?
Hawke or the hero of Ferelden, the Maker wouldn't have needed to send you. But he did. You're not what I pictured. But if I've learned anything, it's that I know less than nothing.
Angel, what are you doing? Angel down there is messing with the door. I left the door open so she wouldn't get all mad, but... Alright, we have like 5 minutes. So let's go to the war table.
How do you know they won't attack here? Darkspawn don't think, they flow.
Yeah, let's go check out the war table. I know we have some war table missions.
Into the fire. Oh, Maker, the smell is everywhere.
Oh, here.
I was going to use them for dinner and then... I can't recall who took them.
Someone put a bag of turnips in the fire. Oh, that's horrible. Yeah, that was harsh. Cassandra is very harsh and very serious. Even harsh to herself, but the harshness gets spread around. She's not the only one she blames. Erica says Curse of Strahd Sable needs a friend like that. Yeah, I think so. I think so. I'll throw her in somewhere, maybe. Who knows? I don't know where. Maybe I'll throw her in there as an NPC. I like Cassandra. I really do. Alright, so... we have some war table missions. A friend in Carinus. According to Dorian, while most of Intermagisters are not Venatori supporters, they will also not raise a finger to prevent Venatori from wreaking havoc in the south. There are some, however, who see the cult for what it is and are trying to expose it. A magister contact in Corvinus, by the name of Maevaris Tilani, is attempting to introduce a new law in the Imperial Senate which would see Venatori activity sharply curtailed into winter. Dorian suggests that quiet Inquisition support of Maevaris would be beneficial and ultimately could drum up support from other magisters fearful of what Corypheus represents. Another bot. Erica says she's Jessie. She's... okay, fair enough. She's kind of Jessie. Yeah, that's fair. Alright. Tevinter is a land where secrets are weapons. Yeah, I have contacts in Tevinter, though not many. Still, trading a few favors could help. No, let's be sneaky.
Let's see what we have.
Considerable as your support has been, I'm saddened to report my motion died on the Senate floor. Damn it. Although I am hardly surprised, my fellows in the Magisterium don't enjoy the thought of having their freedom limited in any fashion, so to speak. It was, however, hardly the point of the motion. It was a statement that needed to be made, and your support allowed me to make it far louder and clearer than I ever would have on my own. So I thank you. With any luck, this will draw support from those who feel as I do. I will also draw fire from the Venatori cultists still in the shadows, but I say let them come. I will not back down in the face of such fools. I'm sending along a few things which I hope will aid your efforts, and we'll see what more I can drum up. Give my love to Dorian. The poor boy is such a hothouse orchid. He must be wilting in the cold. Oh, you mean a friend like Varric will literally be tortured and still won't give her up? Oh, yeah, that's... okay, fair point. I'm not going to do this yet. It was to be expected in the wake of so many important deaths and the rise of the Inquisition. Several noble houses are attempting to spur their own fortunes, crafting an alliance of their own. For now, they admired in arguments of seniority will be taking a long time to threaten understanding. Suggest be offered as an ambassador of the Herald, not the Inquisition. Okay. It's not a bad idea. Let them squabble on their own. No, invite them to absorb our soldiers' training. That's a good idea. Be normal. Let's be normal. Despite their intent to craft a political entity to oppose us, these noble families are too embroiled in their own conflicts to even acknowledge us. We've acquired some additional trading partners who are tired of waiting for a winner to emerge. Not bad. Not bad. Okay, what do we have here? Specializations. Ooh, we need to do this. Absolutely. Let's do it right now.
Inquisitor.
Training these specialists who will turn Inquisitors' abilities remain at their height. Okay, let's talk about which rogue specializations we want to do. There's Assassin. There is Dervish or whatever it's called, the thing with the potions. And then there's the thing with the traps. I'm leaning towards the Assassin one, but there's also the potions one that isn't bad. The traps ones I don't love. That's Varix. We received a message from Orzammar, knowing of ancient Darkspawn threatened Thetis. King Balin is officially declared his support for the Inquisition. Wonderful. Cement the alliance. We have a sigil. Nice.
Inquisitor.
Be attached to armors or emissaries of return. Orzammar pledges cause from Legion of the Dead. Peerless. Recognize the threat Garfius poses. Cool. Another coin win. No, not that. I get the feeling her bandit friend isn't at that point. Maybe. I don't know. That's a good question. Alright, so we need to do that eventually. Can't yet. Exalted Plains. Alright. We can decide at this point where to go next. And we can decide at this point which of the 3 specializations to do as well. That is DLC. That's also DLC. So we're not going to do that. Find the Warden. Oh, that's in... Alright, so... Oh, hey. Hinterland Resources. Oh, no, this is just a repeatable one. Okay.
To work?
Okay. I can just repeat that one over and over off stream. Anyway, so... That is about all the time we have for tonight. We have spent the entirety of this entire session in Skyhold. I feel like I'm going to be reusing the thumbnail this week because we're going to be doing more side quests next week, because of course we are. We're going to be just doing side quests out of Skyhold this time. We're going to be going out into the world, going to some of these new places, and that sort of thing. Again, not really advancing the main story as far as I can think of, because what is it? There is investigate the western approach. That also involves the wardens, and then over here involves finding a particular warden, Stroud. We need to do both of these before the next major story mission, but before we do either of them, like I said, we have a lot of power to unlock and a lot of quests to do. We can only unlock like 1 or 2 things. We don't have a lot of power, which is down here. We have 9. It's right like there. I'm covering over it. Anyway, like I said, we have a great deal of things to do side quest wise, so we're going to be doing a lot of them. Anyway, thank you all for joining me tonight. We'll think about and we'll talk about what specialization to take between now and next week. We don't have to make that decision right away. We'll also talk about where to go, what to do next. There's a lot of stuff that opens up now that Skyhold is fully explored and we have all of our companions. So, be sure to join me again on Monday as we continue playing Greedfall. We are finally getting back around to some main story quests. I fixed the quest that I thought was broken, so we are just streamlining straight into it. So we are, I think, advancing the main story quest on Monday. Should be. Helping out Constantine. And then Thursday, we're coming right back here and doing some more side quests. So, thank you all for joining me. There were some lively conversations tonight. I greatly enjoyed all of it. Don't worry. Again, don't worry, Kevin. I thought it was good. Again, no disrespect to anyone involved. I don't think there was. So, WizKid, don't take Jim's glowing coin. And I guess that's a good enough note to end on. So, thank you again for joining me. I hope everybody has a good night. See you next time.